single day. Well, here we go. The Eagles beat the Washington football team yesterday. And with that win, coupled with some other things that happened yesterday, the Philadelphia Eagles are going back to the playoffs. They beat Washington 20-16, kind of an ugly game yesterday. You know, it's so funny how people consume sports. Like, do you actually get any enjoyment out of watching games? Or do you just sit and be miserable for the entire 3-hour journey of a football game? Washington goes up 10-0, and I'm like, here we go. We're just going to see the Twitter world, like, melt down all at the same time. Washington goes right down the field. They score. It's 7-0. They kick a field goal. It's 10-0. And it's just like, oh, my God, haven't you guys seen this script before? Like, I always wonder, do people actually watch any NFL other than the Eagles games? Literally, do they watch anything else other than an Eagles game? I mean, 10-0 in the NFL is nothing. And people are going off the rails, and I'm like, you know, this guy's tweeting back and forth to me about how John Gannon's defense, they're so passive, they need to blitz more. I said, dude, they gave up 3 field goals in the first half. When they gave up the 3 field goals in the first half, that's when I was like, all right, they're going to shut this team out in the second half. They were making adjustments in the half that I said in the second half, they're really going to shut them because Washington just wasn't doing anything. They were moving the ball, but no big play opportunities whatsoever. They were keeping everything in front. You saw what John Gannon's game plan was. They were getting pressure with 4. They were constantly getting around. I mean, give Tyler Heinicke a little bit of credit. I mean, he's running for his life back there. He's throwing off his back foot. The Eagles were getting plenty of pressure. There was no need for them to send any more. They were getting plenty of pressure with 4, and then late in the game, they sent a couple of blitzes in the this script has been followed by, what are you guys watching? They've been using this script on defense like the last 7 weeks of the season. You know, they kind of are, getting a feel out in the first half. And in the second half, they were just completely dominant. I mean, the Washington football team just could not do anything. They couldn't throw the ball down the field. They couldn't move the ball on the ground. Everything was just underneath. The Eagles were getting pressure with 4. And really, I thought the defense was the big factor in the game. I mean, look, I'll go back and say what I said last Thursday. Their defense is going to take a monumental step up next week, although I don't think you're going to see the Eagles starters in the game against Dallas. They're going to take a monumental step up when they play in the playoffs. And yes, by the way, the Eagles have qualified for the playoffs. Whether you like it or not, you miserable screws, the Eagles have qualified for the playoffs. So all the people who sent me the Jim Mora Jr. or the Jim Mora Sr., memes, all those people, I'm sorry to tell you, those memes were wrong. I know all the Eagles fans who were so hell-bent on getting a better draft pick this year. You're not getting that better draft pick. Just enjoy what has happened this year. You know, this team, this is really, we're going to talk about the game, but really the state of where this organization is. There was a tweet today by Hembo, who, you hear him on the Greeny Show, who puts out a lot of these takes, that really these deeper stats and facts and factoids. The most dead money this season in the NFL, the most dead money on their roster, the Lions, the Panthers, the Texans, and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is number 2 in all of football in dead money. For the Eagles to make the playoffs this year, where $34 million of dead money is all appropriated to one player. It's remarkable. Think about the other teams that have all this dead money. 2-13, the Lions. The Panthers are 5-11. The Texans are 4-12. Philadelphia has $64 million of dead money on their roster this year, and they are going to the playoffs. It's remarkable. I mean, look, somebody says, the Eagles haven't beaten anybody. Well, I went through the Dallas schedule last night. They have won one game this year against a team that is worth a damn. They beat the Patriots back in October before the Patriots really became the Patriots that we now see this year. The Dallas Cowboys haven't beaten anybody. They, like the Eagles, every time they've played anybody that's decent, they've lost. And if you watched Dallas yesterday, you saw a team that, again, I say this almost year after year, they have the best roster, they have the worst coach. They got undressed yesterday by Cliff Kingsbury. Mike McCarthy got absolutely undressed yesterday in that game by Cliff Kingsbury, who's got his own problems at managing games. And yet he's still outfoxed Mike McCarthy. I mean, the fact that McCarthy had to call timeout on that field goal, yes. And then the Dallas fans are crying that they couldn't challenge the call and that the refs are against them. Well, if your head coach had half a clue, he wouldn't have needed to use a timeout in the third quarter to call timeout when the team put their field goal unit on the field.
Yep.
McCarthy just assumed they're going to kick a field goal here, so he sent his field goal unit out. Well, when they didn't put the field goal unit out, he had to call timeout like an idiot. Mike McCarthy is a bumbling fool who has the best roster in the NFC. But unfortunately, having the best roster doesn't mean skedaddle when that guy's making all the calls. Kellen Moore has no feel for a game. He's a very bright offensive mind. He's got no feel on how to call a big game, though. Yeah, they look great against the Washington football team. Congratulations. But every time they have stepped up in competition, they, like the Eagles, have not been able to handle it. Is Dallas better than Philadelphia? 100% their roster is better. But they have a huge problem at the head coaching position. And you saw the glaring issue yesterday. Philadelphia, on the other hand, they're a very well-run team right now. Their coach is down 10-0. They don't panic. They don't get away from what they want to do. They don't absolutely, just all of a sudden say, well, we're down 10-0 on defense. We have to start doing all these things. No, they saw what I saw. The Washington offense couldn't do anything. Yeah, they were moving the ball. It's going to happen. You're going to move the ball. You're going to go up and down the field. But they couldn't punch it in. When they were holding, it was the old Jim Johnson. Hold them to field goals. Give me 17 points or less, and we'll win the game. And that's what John Gannon's defense did yesterday. They gave up 16 in the first half, and then they shut them out in the second half. The fact of the matter that the Philadelphia Eagles were able to find a way to make the playoffs this year with what they have done with this roster, Dallas better try to win a Super Bowl this year because they are at the peak of where they are right now, this Cowboys team. Amari Cooper's getting a little bit older. He's not the same player that he was. Their offensive line's getting a little bit older. Dak's not the same player that he was a year ago. I don't know what's wrong with him, and I'm no Dak hater by any stretch of the imagination, but he's just not the same player. The run game, they don't have a power run game. They don't have, they don't know what their identity is as a running team. They need to try to win now. And I think Joe Fortenbaugh is filling in for Greeny today, and he said it on my drive into work, which, by the way, was pretty treacherous. But Joe Fortenbaugh had a really good point. They have a great roster, and they only have a good coach. They are paying for greatness, but they are led by only good. And that's going to hold them back. And if they want this roster to be a Super Bowl team, they might have to do something drastic in the offseason and say, hey, this coach got us 11 wins, but he's not the right guy to win us a Super Bowl. And guess what? There's not too many of those guys out there. We talk about it all the time on the quarterback side. Some guy sends me a tweet all the time. Hey, I'm sending you this tweet of Joe Herbert and Joe Burrows. Those are guys who can really sling it. Well, no crap. I know those guys can play quarterback. I'm not an idiot. I'd love to have Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. My point is, I watched Jalen Hurts yesterday, and he gave me no reason to back off what I said last week. I am rolling into year 3 with Jalen Hurts, and I am using my 3 draft choices to continue to build the team around him. Why? There is not a player in this draft, not a quarterback, I should say, in this draft that I am just going to waste one of my 3 first-round picks on. And Jalen Hurts showed, I thought he had an excellent game yesterday, to be honest with you. And that's without really running the football that much. He had a couple of runs, but he wasn't relying on the run. They needed him to throw yesterday, right? They needed Jalen Hurts to throw the football yesterday. That was definitely evident. They couldn't just rely on the ground game, and the ground game just wasn't the same yesterday. I don't know if it's because Miles Sanders was out. I think you got to keep in mind, too, Philadelphia and Washington both played 3 games in a 15-day span. They both played on that Tuesday night. They played again last week, and they both played again last week. I think the Eagles' offensive line maybe showed a little bit of signs of some wear and tear in that game yesterday. But I was impressed with Jalen Hurts, 17 of 26, made some big throws, eluded the pass rush, used his legs, not all the time. He didn't say, I have to run every single time. He was patient, made some really good reads, missed a couple guys. Guess what? Quarterbacks miss guys. Quarterbacks make bad reads. They miss guys. They make bad reads. And Jalen Hurts, he's not Tom Brady. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not the top 10 quarterback in the league. So he's going to miss more than those guys miss. And let me tell you, those guys miss. Hurts is going to miss more than them because he's not one of those guys. But what the Eagles have is a guy that they can win with. Are they going to win the Super Bowl this year? I'd be shocked. But if they keep following the blueprint and the path that they're on, they will quickly surpass the team that is currently the leader in the NFC East. And the other 2 bozo teams, Washington and the Giants, they can't get out of their own way. The Giants, Joe Judge yesterday, oh my God. If I was John Mara and I heard him go on an 11-minute diatribe of diarrhea of the mouth, I would have walked down and said, yo, why don't you and Antonio Brown jump on the same bus and get the hell out of my building? Joe Judge should be embarrassed for that speech yesterday. And he's taking shots at the ownership group is what he's doing. He's passively, aggressively trying to say they are not on the same page with him. They need to set the culture better. That's why we have problems. No, Joe Judge, you're their problem. You are not a good head coach. The culture in that building stinks. Yeah, I got guys telling me they love to come back. Yeah, that's just what people want to do. Come back and play for the Giants, a 4-win team. If you were to say right now, which NFC East team, maybe not this year, and I would say this. Dallas is likely going to finish 4th, right? Is that where they are? They're going to finish 4th. And I don't see them getting out of that 4th spot. I don't think the playoff seedings are going to change. I think the playoff seedings will stay as is. Green Bay has clinched. I think you'll get LA 2. Tampa would be 3, right?
Yep.
Dallas is 4. Arizona will be 5. San Francisco, I think, will stay at 6. And I think Philadelphia would stay at 7. So what does that mean? Dallas is going to have to play Arizona again. And Arizona was a half-assed team yesterday. They're missing, 2 or 3 offensive linemen. They had their left guard playing left tackle or their center bumping out here. They got guys all over the place. That was a team that was leaking oil. And for God's sakes, they were the one team in my parlay 8-teamer that lost. I thought Dallas was just going to Rochambeau them. I thought Arizona was out of gas. They are very weak up front. They give up like 4.5 yards a carry. So I figured Dallas would run all over them. Arizona's not a physical defense. They had 3 guys out in their secondary yesterday. Not to mention Rondell Moore and some guy named Hopkins are both out on their offense, and James Conner.
Right.
And they still went into Dallas yesterday and kicked their ass. So if Dallas wins 11 games and is the NFC East champion and is the 4 seed and gets beat by number 5, guess what? you might be expecting some changes in that place. Because if I was Jera, I'm not standing for that clown coach. That guy is a complete and utter jackass. He lost you that game yesterday, and he has been a reason why this team has lost 5 games this season. With that roster, they should not be 11-5. They should not be a 4 seed. But that coach, as I said in the previous regime, Dallas had the best roster in 16, 17, 18, 19. And I kept telling you, Jason Garrett is the problem. That roster should be winning. Jason Garrett's their problem. And then you basically went with a parallel with Garrett to McCarthy. McCarthy has one job. He doesn't call plays. He's not the coordinator, so he doesn't call plays. He doesn't do anything with the defense. His one job is to manage the game. That's it. He is the literally head coach, manage the game. And he can't do that right. That's it. That's his one job, is manage the game. Now, we have a text group with my one buddy. He's a Cowboys fan. My other buddy rails on him all the time. Look, I'm neutral. I'm in the middle. I could care less about Dallas. I tell it like it is. To me, Dallas has the best roster. They have the worst coach. Of all the playoff teams, they have the best roster. I like their roster better than I like. The only roster I like better is if Tampa's 100% healthy. But with Tampa and their problems, I think Dallas has got more talent. Think about this. We said at the beginning of the year how good the Dallas offense was. If the defense could just be middle of the road. Well, now the defense is carrying the offense because their offense stinks. You know why their offense stinks? Is the kid Moore has no feel for a game. It's going to be one and done for them, most likely. And if it's one and done, where the two teams are right now, Philadelphia and Dallas, Philly has 3 first-round picks. They had $64 million of dead money. The Eagles will be a player in free agency this offseason. They couldn't do anything last year. You had $64 million dead cap space. They couldn't. They signed Eric Wilson and Anthony Harris. That was their 2 free agent signing, and Steve Nelson. They couldn't do anything in free agency last year. Yesterday was one of those days where you kind of felt, the Eagles come back, they win that game, and it's not impressive. Beating Washington 20-16 is not impressive, okay? No. At the end of the day, though, you won a road game in the division in the NFL in a playoff situation. You get the win, you move on, and now you needed some things around you to happen. And those things happen. San Francisco won, and Minnesota lost. And that puts you in. And now, not only are you in the playoffs, Philadelphia, you don't have to play any of your starters if you don't want after playing 3 games in a 15 or whatever day span it was. Now, you can kind of take this week off, put the feet up a little bit, get a little healthy, get yourself as healthy as you've been. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Brooks was back for the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he's added to this offensive line. The first time Philly and Tampa played, 28-22 was the final score. It wasn't that close. But the Eagles are a way different team right now than the one that placed Tampa Bay on that Thursday night back in, week 5? And sadly for Tampa Bay, they're a different team too, and not for the better. I'm not sitting here saying, hey, I'd rather play Tampa, but I would say this. I don't think there's a team in the NFC field that is a definitive, clear, overwhelming favorite. Do I think Philly's better than Green Bay? No. Do I think they're better than the Rams? No. Do I think they're better than Tampa? Not really. Dallas, Arizona, I think they have better rosters. I think Philadelphia is better coached than both those teams. And that's a big difference. I think the Rams, McVay's still a pretty good coach. As much as we kind of rail on him as he's boy wonder and all that kind of stuff, he's still a pretty good coach. He's got a good offensive mind. They have a pretty good defense. The Rams do. I think Green Bay's got a very good team. I don't think they have a great defense. That's their issue. And look, all these teams are going to have to look at Philadelphia now and say, crap. We got to go into a fist fight against the 7 seed. We're going to have to sit there and get beat up by a team that's going to run the ball 30 times against us. So that's where we start the day. 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. That's the text board. Get involved there. If you're watching the show live over on the live YouTube channel, you can message us in the comments section as well. As many of you already kind of got the day started. Jalen's watching. He says, I have Sunday ticket. I put up 4 games at a time on my computer and watch the Eagles game on TV. Hey, look, I know some people watch a lot of football. It's just mesmerizing to me. Like, I got a guy tweeting at me yesterday, am I ready to panic? It's 10-0. Am I going to panic? It's 10-0.
It's the NFL.
Brian Cisneros says, some of my friends laughed at me before the season when I said the Eagles were going to go 9-8 and have a chance at the playoffs. Let's go Birds. Brian, I had those same people laughing at me. I've basically said all season long. Now, I will say, in my original who's in, who's out, that I have the Eagles making the playoffs, no, I did not. I did not predict, yes, this will be a playoff team. What I said at the beginning of the year was the ceiling for this team to me is that they can win 10 games and make the playoffs. And my reasoning was this. 2 things. 1, I think their offensive line is the best offensive line in football. And if they use their offensive line, they could win football games. They could be competitive. And that's what they did. The other reason I like them to be a playoff team, Brian, is their schedule. Their schedule was very lean at the end of the year, and we saw that. So that's where we start the day. 609 403 0973. Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed your New Year's holiday. You stayed safe. We've got plenty to dive into. Mike McGarry at 2:40, Grayson's grades, Nick Sirianni's presser in the 3 o'clock hour. Football at 4 with Jeff Mosher. One thought every game, Casey Joyner and Jeff Kerr on the playoffs. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. And if you are watching the show live, you can hit us up on the YouTube channel. We will be there live, of course, every single day. For those of you out there who watch the show each day, we appreciate you. If you're not in the car today and you're, hey, I still want to listen or watch, it's easy to do. YouTube, either on your smart TV or cast it from your phone over to your TV, and you can watch us on the television. I got text messages coming in. How far can this Eagles team go? It's the Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN, and the free mobile app.
Warby Parker was created to change that. They design and produce their own eyewear and then sell it directly to you for a fraction of the price. Warby Parker's high-quality glasses start at just $95, including your prescription. Try 5 pairs of frames for free. Go to warbyparker.com to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. That's warbyparker.com.
It's that time again. Time for fresh starts and resolutions. And Harry's can help. Harry's is an award-winning razor brand that makes a full range of grooming essentials. But the benefits go way beyond a great shave at a fair price. Maybe you resolve to take control of your finances. With cartridge refills as low as $2 each, your budget won't even flinch when you switch to Harry's and save all year. And with checkout code TOWNSQUARE at harrys.com, you can get a trial set for just $3. If your resolution is to always look and feel your best, that's Harry's specialty. Their high-quality razors combine an ergonomic design with 5 super sharp blades, shipped directly to you with a 100% money-back guarantee. New customers can get a Harry's starter set for just $3 at harrys.com with code TOWNSQUARE at checkout. Get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel with aloe, and travel cover, all for just $3. That's code TOWNSQUARE at checkout at harrys.com.
Coach, we need to score. What's the call? We're going to wing it. We're calling the pick. The pick? Yeah, the one, the only, the original Piccalilli Inn to score some of South Jersey's best wings and homestyle favorites. But, Coach, it's the middle of the game. Pre-game, post-game, during the game, the pick's wings, tails, and ears are always the right call. They're right on Route 206 in Chemung. Or check them out on Facebook. Now, who wants mild and who wants high? The Piccalilli Inn.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Before Bamboo HR, I feel like crying just thinking about it.
We were still handling everything via paper, and we literally had paper stack.
It was all in spreadsheets and like folders.
From the moment I started using it, I felt calmer.
As soon as we started using the Bamboo onboarding checklist, I mean, it was extremely easy.
Headcount, turnover, years of service. Like there's just so many different reports that I use at different points in time. I'm like totally set free to focus on the people, to focus on development, to focus on team dynamics.
It's freeing me up to do more of the stuff that actually matters in HR, which is interacting with people, learning from them, and then building stuff for them.
Everything is in this one place. I can't even imagine what it would be like without Bamboo HR.
We're Bamboo HR, and we'd love to set you free to do great work. Come try our award-winning all-in-one HR software for free with no strings attached. Visit bamboohr.com/hats for this free trial offer. That's bamboohr.com/hats.
Check out FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Casino in Atlantic City. Bet all the action and style this football season at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook just off the boardwalk at Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, 2:30 on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Your text messages are welcomed, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. The state of this Eagles team, they beat Washington. Lots to unpack in the game. You know, if you take a look at it, I was going back and forth with some people on Twitter yesterday. The Eagles had 5 quarterbacks hit. They broke up 7 passes. During this 4-game winning streak, the defense has hit the quarterback 22 times. They've allowed the 6th fewest total yards in the NFL. They're the 8th best scoring defense. They give up just 20 points per game. And their offense has really turned it into another gear. That's the big difference, is that they control the clock with the run game. And then they don't give up a lot of big plays. I think that's one of the big differences, is they don't give up a lot of the big plays. I think they said yesterday during the broadcast that the Eagles have given up the least amount of plays of 20 or more yards in the entire league. You remember, man, during the Chip Kelly years, they used to call them the X plays. They used to give up more X plays than anybody else. And then last couple years with Jim Schwartz, people would complain. Those sticks defenses, they gave up a lot of those big third down plays. They're not giving up those big plays anymore. Everybody wants to blitz. This team, if they blitz, they're going to be in some trouble. They pick their spots when to blitz. They do a good job of picking their spots of when to blitz. 609-403-0973. Let's take some text messages. Phil says, hey, Mike, it's conceivable San Francisco loses to the Rams, Saints win, and the Eagles with the tiebreaker over the Saints would jump to 6. Good or bad? Would you rather have them play the Rams or Tampa? That's a tough one. I'm not a big Stafford guy, but I think that team's pretty dynamic. I don't know, John. What do you say? Because of the way the Tampa's got all these injuries right now, right?
I mean, I would honestly lean to Tampa because you've already seen them and you know what they can do. Whereas the Rams, you don't know what they're going to do yet because they're something completely new.
I think the problem with Tampa, it's you're playing Brady. Do you see Brady losing at home in the first round? Matt Stafford, I think he has 3 turnovers in 3 straight games, Matt Stafford.
Oh, yeah.
So I obviously like Brady more than I like Stafford. That's number one. But I like the Rams roster more than I like the Tampa roster right now.
Absolutely.
That's my issue. I don't know. And this whole thing with Antonio Brown, is that going to linger over them all week long? I doubt it. I think they basically nipped that thing in the bud, told them to walk home, and they're past that. With Brady there, I'm not all that worried about the Antonio Brown thing being a problem.
Yeah, the other thing is that with the Rams, you know that they have a defense that can cause you problems with Aaron Donald and Von Miller and then Jalen Ramsey on the back end.
Yeah, they've got a really good defense. Tampa's got a really good defense too. But I think the Eagles can run the ball on Tampa. Aaron Donald presents a bigger challenge. So I think I would rather take my chances playing Tampa.
Mike, let me ask you this.
Now, that would mean you'd have to go to the 6th spot, right?
Let me double check. Well, you still can go to the 6th spot. I mean, Tampa
right, no, but that was the question. In other words,
Tampa could still drop, though.
How does that happen?
Tampa could drop if the Cowboys beat the Eagles. There is a possibility.
So if the Cowboys beat the Eagles
and Tampa loses.
Tampa loses, though. You didn't mention that part of it.
Right. They have to lose the final week of the season.
Right. So right now, Tampa's 3. Philadelphia. See, I read something yesterday that said that the Eagles have like a 68% chance of playing Tampa. And I'm thinking, how is that possible? Like, what are the scenarios that Tampa would move to 2 or Philly would move to 6? The Philly moving to 6 thing, if San Francisco loses and Philly wins, then Philly would be 6.
Correct. Also, don't forget, here's the thing to keep in mind with Tampa and Dallas. Dallas has a better conference record and a better strength of victory. Sorry. Dallas has a better conference record.
But Tampa beat Dallas head-to-head.
Right.
Tampa beat Dallas head-to-head, though.
Right. Now, there's a situation where the Rams drop if the Cardinals win the division, too. So.
Yeah, but that would mean the Rams have to lose next week to San Francisco.
Which is possible.
Right. Arizona must play Seattle.
Yep.
Right. So I think the Rams are going to stay 2. I think Tampa stays 3.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe the Eagles do move up to 6 if the 49ers lose.
If the 49ers lose, but if Philly loses as well,
they stay put.
If the 49ers lose, though, and the Saints win, then the Eagles would move to 6 and the Saints would be 7.
That's another scenario.
Because the Eagles beat them head-to-head.
Correct.
All right, we'll dive into what this playoff berth actually means. Is there anything big picture here that we can take a look at? Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. He joins me coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. 609-403-0973. Keep your text messages coming in. Sports Bash rolling along on this Monday. Eagles beat Washington 20-16. Dallas loses. They will play Saturday night at 8:15 here on 97.3 ESPN, your home for Eagles football.
Only Wendy's serves a better breakfast with a better biscuit. Our hot buttery breakfast biscuits are loaded with a fresh cracked egg, cheese, and your choice of bacon or sausage. Did we mention the part where Wendy's biscuits are hot and buttery? Wendy's breakfast biscuits, hot and buttery. So don't take a chance with those other guys. Bet on a better breakfast with Wendy's bacon or sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish is...
It's pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive, bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said now we speak Spanish.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
DraftKings Sportsbook has an unbelievable offer to get all fans in on the action as the college and pro football seasons wind down. New customers can bet just $5 on any football team to win their game. And if they do, you win $200 in free bets. So let's wind down the season with a big win. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on football with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. For our New York listeners, we have an exciting announcement. DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to you soon. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code 973. Bet just $5 on any football team, college or pro, and win $200 in free bets if they're victorious. That's code 973 this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Why does Walgreens offer copays as low as $0 and 90-day refills? Because we care about Medicare, so you don't have to. I mean, do you really care to hear me go on about same-day prescription deliveries making your life easier? Or how there's a pharmacy expert available 24/7 and one-click refills? Well, I just did anyways. Fill your Medicare prescriptions with Walgreens and save.
$0 copays apply if you're on generic drugs and select plans with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Restrictions apply. See Walgreens.com/Medicare for complete details.
Have you ever wondered why eyeglasses cost so much? The eyewear industry has been dominated by a single company that's kept prices artificially high.
Yikes.
Warby Parker was created to change that. They design and produce their own eyewear and then sell it directly to you for a fraction of the price. Warby Parker's high-quality glasses start at just $95, including your prescription. Try 5 pairs of frames for free. Go to warbyparker.com to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. That's warbyparker.com.
Your one stop for beer, wine, and liquor is Buy Right Wine and Liquors of Hamilton, Williamstown, and West Deptford. All your favorite local craft beers in one place and a huge selection of wine and spirits at great prices. Visit them online to see what's on sale. Run out of beer during the game? Don't miss a single play. Buy Right has free delivery when you order online or download their app.
By right, Hamilton. Blueberry Crossing, White Horse Pike. By right, Williamstown, Route 42, Black Horse Pike. And by right, West Deptford on Route 45.
Now, back to more Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey sports leader.
2:41 Sports Bash Monday. Eagles beat Washington. Dallas loses. It's an all-around great 2020. It's a great way to start 2022. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. The Giants have all sorts of drama. That warms my heart. Washington and Dallas lost. Philly's the only team in the division that had a win yesterday. They clinched a playoff berth. Maybe 2022, Mike, is going to be better than the previous year.
Well, hopefully it will be in more ways than one, right? And I give it to the Eagles yesterday, continuing to do what they've had to do. They got off again to a slow start, but they make enough plays and win games and headed to the playoffs. Certainly, congratulations to Hurts and Sirianni and the rest of the Eagles.
Right. Now, I think, there was a tweet that was out today about the dead money that they had this year. Over $60 million in dead money, 35 of which went to Carson Wentz. And you look at that and say, it's pretty remarkable that a team, because the other teams in the dead money hierarchy were the Lions, the Houston Texans, the Carolina Panthers, all of which I think want to combine, 5, 9, 6, 7 games, something like that. You have to really, I think, what's the big picture takeaway from this team making the playoffs?
Well, I think number one, I think it's a team that's headed in the right direction with the development of Hurts and Sirianni. And the other thing, I think when you bring up the dead money and you look at it, and I know this guy, a lot of Eagles fans don't like to give this guy a lot of credit, but, Harry Roseman deserves a lot of credit, I believe, for building the team. I mean, it has every pick he's ever had been good? No. Has he missed on some picks? Yes. But has he hit on more than he hasn't? Yes. I mean, this year's draft is looking, very good with Smith and Dickerson. The pick of Hurts looks good. So I think you've got to give credit to the Eagles' much maligned front office, which is something not a lot of Eagles fans like to do, but I think they deserve a lot of credit. And the other thing I just think that always amazes me when you look at Twitter is a lot of Eagles fans or some Eagles fans complaining that how good is this team? They haven't beaten anybody. They've beaten a lot of bad quarterbacks. Well, that's what teams do. Good teams beat bad teams. That's what you have to do. And that's what they did. And you can't take it away from them right now. I mean, they're a team after 4 wins last year. Who would have thought, certainly I didn't, that they'd be here in the playoffs the next year?
Well, Mike, it's funny you say that because I'm looking at Dallas and I'm trying to see where they stack up with everybody. And I looked at their schedule and said, any good team they played, they lost, and they just beat up on all the bad teams. I mean, their best win of the year, they beat the Patriots back in October, and I think that was when the Patriots were still kind of finding their way. So, really, Dallas's best win is against the 10-win Patriot team. Other than that, they lost to Tampa, they lost to Kansas City, they lost to anybody who was decent.
Arizona.
They lost.
Yeah. And you look at it in any sport, right? That's what teams do. You beat the bad teams, and then when you play a good team, most teams go 500, or they might go a game or two below 500 when they're playing, good teams. But when you've got bad teams in front of you, you have to win. And the Eagles have certainly done that with the formula of running the football. The defense has improved. Again, people will say, well, they're playing bad quarterbacks, but still it counts. And timely throws and runs from Jalen Hurts. That's been the recipe since they lost in Las Vegas, and it's gotten them in the playoffs.
Mike, obviously, they've got those 3 picks kind of looming this year. I don't know. You take a look at where they are, a 9-win team. They got the 3 picks. I think they did a pretty good job in this year's draft. Do you see kind of this organization rebuilding itself right before our eyes that quickly?
Yeah, well, to me, you got to take those 3 picks, and I'm picking defensive guys on it. I think they need one of the things I think they need is a consistent pass rusher. I think they're in good position to bolster that defensive side of the ball, and maybe get a veteran wide receiver in the offseason to come in and complement that group right there. And then I think you take a step forward with Jalen Hurts and you see where it goes, right? And one of the things that you look at in the NFC East, there hasn't been a repeat division winner in how many years? So if you throw the Cowboys out because they won the division this year, you got to assume they don't win it next year. Then it's the Eagles, Giants, and Washington. Who are you picking to win in the division out of those three teams? I mean, right now it's the Eagles.
Oh, man, those teams seem to be in a total mess, disarray. Giants, Washington, Billy, Dallas, obviously yesterday. Look, I think Dallas has the best roster maybe in the NFC. I think they have the worst coach again.
Yeah, and I'll throw this at you. I think Dak Prescott has just had a terrible season. Not a terrible season, but disappointing season. He has not played well at all. You saw it yesterday. I know he ended up with decent numbers, but anybody who watched that game, he didn't make the throws that he had to make. In clutch situations, he missed wide receivers, and it's been that way all season for them all along. So you got the combination of the coach who does some peculiar things, but then I think you've got a subpar Dak Prescott right there, and that's going to be a problem. It's why I don't think Dallas is – I think Dallas is a big question mark going into the playoffs because of the quarterback play. I think it's front and center. He's been unpredictable, and he hasn't been reliable in a lot of games. He played good against Washington on Sunday night, but that was about it. And, he's really struggled this year, and I think that's a huge question mark for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree with look, they're going to be 4 most likely going to have to play. I would imagine going to play Arizona again. That wasn't a good matchup before him yesterday. I would imagine Arizona's only going to get more troops back.
Right, exactly. Though the only thing you wonder about Arizona might be better on the road than they are in their home.
Well, they're going to have to play on the road. The game will be on the road.
Right, exactly. In that stadium where the quarterback has been undefeated since, I think, grammar school, right? I think he's like 10-0 in that stadium or something like that. Yeah. I mean, Dallas is unpredictable. Their offensive weapons are obvious. CeeDee Lamb, the running backs. I mean, I just wonder sometimes why they just don't hand the ball off. Why don't they play like the Eagles play? Why don't they just hand the ball off, run the football, and ask Prescott to make occasional throws rather than do what he does? You know,
I talked about this in the open. To me, the offense, Kellen Moore has no rhythm. He has no feel of the game. He's just like a guy just having fun, calling plays. And when they're good, it's fun because he's calling all these great, but he has no feel for the style of the game.
Yeah, I would agree. It's almost sometimes they're like, okay, this guy hasn't touched the ball in a while. And even though we're running the football well, we've got to throw it to CeeDee Lamb because we have CeeDee Lamb on the team. Or CeeDee Lamb is catching a lot of passes. All of a sudden, we've got to force one to Cooper because Cooper hasn't had the ball. It's almost like he's coaching to keep people happy rather than do what's successful. Again, if I was Dallas, I'd turn around. I'd play exactly like the Eagles. I'd run the football and ask Prescott to make occasional throws downfield, basically.
Yeah, I know John Gannon, obviously. This Eagles defense, and I said this on Thursday, Mike. It was my last show of the year. I think the Eagles offensively can hang out with all these teams because they'll run the ball. It shortens the game. I just don't think defensively they match up with anybody.
Well, I mean, I think the defense is kind of underrated. I think they've gotten better. They've been able to pressure the quarterback more. They've gotten some turnovers. If you look at the number of points they've allowed, I mean, it's been pretty low. Now, a lot of people will turn around and say, well, it's because they haven't played any good quarterbacks. And when they play a good quarterback, they struggle basically. But, you look at the playoffs with this defense. I mean, and I certainly don't think the Eagles are going to go win 3 games on the road, which is what it would take. But you look at a potential first-round matchup. Are you scared of Stafford in Los Angeles? Are you scared of I realize this might be sacrilege, but are you scared of Brady without Godwin and Antonio Brown and a banged-up Mike Evans? I mean, I look at the Eagles and say, why not next weekend or 2 weeks, basically?
Oh, I agree with that. We were talking about who would you rather, the Rams. Stafford has 3 turnovers in 3 straight games. How many playoff games has he even been in, Matt Stafford?
One, I think, right?
Brady, I think they made it one time. Right, I think Jim Schwartz might have been the coach, or Jim Caldwell maybe. Brady, obviously, do you see Brady losing at home in the playoffs? But man, they're really banged up. They got a lot of problems.
they're banged up. I watched a lot of that game yesterday, and they're leaking a little oil, right? I think Tampa Bay has played a lot of football. You figure you go to the Super Bowl last year, play all that out, then come back this year. I think a lot of people are injured. They can't run the ball without Fournette in the game. They seem to be leaking a lot of oil. Now, obviously, Brady at home is going to be tough, but I mean, this is a team that got shut out by the Saints 2 weeks ago and almost lost to the Jets. Although the Jets are playing frisky, they almost lost to the Jets yesterday. So again, I look at the potential matchups for the Eagles in the first round of the playoffs, and I don't. I look at the Eagles and say, why not? I can easily.
Yeah.
I don't see 3 in a row, but I could see 1.
Are you playing anybody against Dallas on Saturday night?
I would kind of hedge it. I think you got to stay in that rhythm a little bit. So, I think I would play Hurts some, and then I would probably get him out, second half and put Minshew in and stuff like that. But I think the Eagles are a team where they're playing well. I just think just stay in that rhythm of playing well. I don't like giving everybody a rest. I would play people. Maybe not the full game, but I certainly wouldn't bench everybody, basically.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this because I don't like, sitting out that whole time. And, I also – it's not really injury so much that you're thinking about, but they've played a lot of football. They had that Tuesday night game. I think yesterday you started to see their offensive line wasn't quite as dominant yesterday. I thought they looked a little sluggish.
Yeah, it's a lot of football, and they are playing a day early, right? They're playing Saturday night, so
Saturday night.
That's another factor to watch. But again, I think you can rest maybe some of the older guys, but some of the young guys like Smith and Hurts, I think you can play Hurts at least a half. I just would like to see guys stay in the rhythm and just keep playing, basically.
All right, Mike McGarry, of course. We look at the NFC East. What the hell was that from Joe Judge yesterday?
Yeah, every week it just gets more and more peculiar. It's bad when the head coach makes more news post game than the actual game. The game was over. I settled down. I was out running little errands. I got home about 10 after 1. I flipped on the TV. The Giants were down 14-0. It was ridiculous. So the game was over. It just seemed to be the last stand of a guy who is sort of pleading his case. Basically, it's not going well. It's not ending well, and it just seems to be it's unbelievable how far that franchise has fallen. One of the elite franchises in all of professional sports. How far they've fallen to where is there a worse franchise in the NFL right now? Maybe the Lions, maybe Jacksonville, and then the Giants, basically.
Awful. So there were some reports that he was coming back. Do you think that's in doubt?
I would find it hard-pressed to bring him back. I understand the Giants don't want to fire another coach after 2 seasons, but again, I just think it's going to be it doesn't seem to me to be a recipe of success to hire a new GM, which they're going to do because Gettleman is either going to be not brought back or he's going to retire. Are they going to hire a new GM, saddle him with a coach he doesn't hire? Boy, Mike, that just doesn't seem like a recipe for success, does it?
Nope, and it warms my heart. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Happy New Year to you, man. People commenting on my hoodie. You like my hoodie today?
I do like it. It's a nice job. I'm Gene Allen. Did you get that from Gene or,
It's a classic AC Vikings basketball hoodie. Yes, I'm rocking today.
There you go.
Yes, I did. It was a nice gift from Gene Allen.
All right.
Long time coverage of
right. The AC Vikings, hopefully they'll have a better New Year. They're off to a little bit of a rough start, and we got a good basketball event, the Seagull Classic, coming up this weekend. So it should be fun.
Well, I'm supporting the girls' team. The girls are good. Jay Lance.
The girls are good. 4-1. 4-1.
All right, Mike. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right. We'll see you later. Thanks.
That's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. And obviously, a lot of people looking at this Eagles team, big picture today. They get to the playoffs. What's next? This game against Dallas kind of lost a little luster. It's going to be Saturday night. We're going to get into Grayson's grades with Scott Grayson coming up next.
We sold tickets at all three of those teams and all three of those numbers, and it is now your last chance to lock in some cash. Obviously, only two are going to advance after Friday to the national championship in Indianapolis.
College football season down the stretch run we come in the NFL playoffs. A ton of great prop swapping stories. Luke Berganti, let's get into some big money possibilities. Such a fluid season, so wide open. That seems like a good thing for prop swappers.
Yeah, I think, the Colts are a nice example. They were 101. Colts started out 1-4 this season. They look to be one of the top teams in the league, if not the AFC. And of course, Tampa, Green Bay. Green Bay was 15-1. They're down to 4-1. Kansas City was almost 20-1 when they started out so slow this season. So, I mean, there's just tons of examples in both college football and pros of teams that were crazy long shots and now are perennial favorites, and you can lock in some cash by utilizing prop swaps.
Yeah, lock that in. There's a great way for you to kind of pay off those Christmas bills. Start the new year off with a little extra cash. Go to PropSwap.com. Download the Prop Swap app today. Luke, keep those prop swappers making money, man.
Thank you, Mike. Happy New Year.
Don't forget prop swappers. Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com and download the Prop Swap app today.
Hear ye, hear ye. Thanks for coming to the town square. First, I'd like to tell you about Steve. He's a plumber. I hear he does good work. Also, Tim. He's this new thing called a dentist. Oh, and Monica, she has a new vegan restaurant. I didn't even know that was a thing yet. Anyway, if you need those things, just wander around town and try to find them because the internet hasn't been invented yet, so I don't know.
This isn't the olden days. Now, word of mouth has gone online. At Town Square, South Jersey, we can show you how to harness the power of townsquarelocal.com for a free local customer analysis, where you can see how many local customers in South Jersey you could reach online. Visit townsquarelocal.com and be the Town Square today. That's townsquarelocal.com.
South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. Oh, I like that. Me too. WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
All right, 3 o'clock time for Grayson's Grades here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Our first shows of 2022 have the Eagles in the playoffs. Who would have thought when 2021 started, they beat the Washington football team yesterday? Grayson's Grades are posted right now at 973ESPN.com. We'll check them out with Scott Grayson from Fox 29. Who passed? Who failed? I guess we got to take a look at the organization as a whole, too. Did the organization set themselves up? Is this a one-year wonder? Let's bring Scott Grayson from Grayson's Grades and Fox 29 into the conversation, and he joins us right now here on our first show of 2022. What's going on, Scott? Happy New Year, man.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too, Mike. Yeah, I agree with you. Who would have thought we'd be here, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a wild year, 2-5. They turned it around, and here they are. They're 9-7 with a chance to get to 10 wins. I think the stat of the day is what I saw, is that they are number 2 in the league in dead cap money. They are second with $65 million of dead cap space this season and are going to make the playoffs. I mean, I think it really talks about the state of the organization.
It does. It also talks about the the desire and the want to of the guys who are there, who obviously had to perform and get these wins with these coaches and buy into what they were talking about, from everything from how to fertilize plants to winning football games. And, I kind of piggybacking on that, I saw a similar stat that said that I believe Carson Wentz is the highest paid player on the roster for the Eagles this season, which is also crazy when you think about it as a result of the trade and the dead cap money you talked about. I mean, I know you're going to get there eventually, but this team is set up to do some nice things in the future. if they don't blow it up or mess it up, I should say, in the front office. And that's for later. For now, they've got a playoff run that they're going to try to make. And, it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, let's take a look at the particulars. You gave Jalen Hurts an A yesterday. There's so much talk about, is he the guy? Are they going to replace him? Do you draft a quarterback? Do you trade for a guy? Well, if you watched that game yesterday, you gave him an A.
Yeah, I gave him an A. I really thought that he did what they needed him to do. Since his ankle injury, it's been interesting because he's had to kind of stay in the pocket more, try to throw more because he didn't want to run on that sore ankle. You saw yesterday, at least I did, the ankle looks better. It's still not 100%, and we can get into what you do about that now this weekend as a result of where they are. But to me, he was a little more mobile. And there was an interesting exchange after the game where, somebody had asked him, did you go to Coach Sirianni and tell him to open up more of the playbook or something like that? And basically alluding to, I can run. And he told Sirianni, yeah, do it, call the plays that you need to call. And he went out and ran them, and they did what they needed to do to move the ball. Other than that one bad game against the Giants, and then you go back to the Washington game less than 2 weeks ago, the couple turnovers that were flukish, the one he fumbled, but the one off of Dallas Goedert's ankle, he's done a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. And there was a moment where he held the ball up yesterday trying to avoid a sack that got a little concerning. But, overall, I think Jalen Hurts is doing a good job. To me, he's the quarterback for next year. I'm not ready to go beyond that at this point, but I think he's the guy to get there next year. He's going to be the youngest starting quarterback in Eagles franchise history. That's not nothing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, outside of being able to make some big-time deal where I can get, Russell Wilson, maybe Watson with what goes on with that story, obviously Russell Wilson. I mean, outside of somebody like that, I don't like a guy in this draft, so I'm going to roll with him for another year. I've seen enough this year to make me feel like, hey, I made the playoffs with this roster. The roster should only get better moving forward. There's no reason to why I don't think he should get better with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, I say take what you have in Jalen Hurts for next year, build around him with 3 first-round picks, let alone the other. I mean, they have a lot of other picks too, and we know how he likes to package some draft picks to try to move up to other spots as well. So who knows what they could do with some good young talent. Imagine how this team could be built for a few years to come. The other key piece to me is they are good. You mentioned the dead cap money this year. Some of that comes off. They have money to spend going into free agency. One of my needs, would be, I don't want to draft another receiver. Please go out and use some of that money to get an established veteran of some sort who's, they do a good job of finding somebody in their mid-20s or so that has some years to build on and put them opposite Devontae Smith. Give Jalen Hurts a chance there with some of those weapons, an offensive line that's going to continue to get built around some of the younger names there. I think they're set up to do some good things. And outside of, like you said, somebody who's potentially a Hall of Fame quarterback, keep the picks, keep the assets, and build around what you have here, because what you have here was good enough to get you into the playoffs. Imagine if you added some pieces around that.
Scott Grayson's grades are posted right now at 97.3ESPN.com. Let's look at more A's yesterday. A guy who got a lot of F's early was Nick Sirianni. He's in the A category. Why?
I really was, I have to give him a lot of credit, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I mean, back when they were 2-5, I was questioning whether he was losing the locker room. To me, that was a major concern with these veterans who'd been through some good years before last season's 4-win season. To me, I think the guy did a great job of keeping this locker room together. He adapted. He, I think, listened to some of the veteran leaders on this team who were coming to him and saying, we should try to do this, we should try to do that. Believe in us. Let us block. Let us be the offensive line that can pave the way for these running backs. And, to his credit, he adapted. This team bought in. They stayed together. You look at them now, and they never look like they're out of a game. They could be down 10-0. It feels like nothing's going right. And suddenly they end up tied, and then they take the lead and they win a game. And to me, I think that Nick Sirianni, he won't win Coach of the Year, and I don't necessarily think he should, but I think he definitely should be among the top of the names listed for that.
Well, that's interesting because, yesterday they're down 10-0. I see the panic sets in, and that's a lot of it. I don't think it's Sirianni so much as it was Jonathan Gannon. The way that defense, that seems like that has been the the blueprint, and you gave him a B yesterday. They're down 16-0, and I felt that Gannon, while it's 16-0 or 10-0, and they only give up 16 points, the fact that they gave up only the 3 field goals, they didn't give up touchdowns. They gave up the 1 touchdown, and then they kind of tightened it up. I said at the half, they ain't scoring again. I said they're going to make the adjustment, and they're done. That's it. And I thought John Gannon has done a really good job. I am really intrigued to see what John Gannon will do with better personnel. There's not another Micah Parsons out there, but if he had that guy that he can really game plan his defense around, I think this guy's probably going to be a pretty good coordinator.
Well, like Sirianni, I think Gannon did a little bit of listening as well. We heard Fletcher Cox back when things weren't going well, getting a little vocal about his, opinion of the way things were going and what he thought. I think those guys went to Gannon as well, like a Darius Slay. Look at the way he's been playing out there, for the second half of the season versus what he was doing, the kind of cushion he was giving back in the first half. Something changed there. I think these veterans went to him, expressed their concern and said, this is what we do well. Let us do it within the game plan that you're trying to call. And my concern would be that, when they get against some of these better quarterbacks, and it's not wrong. The people who want to, poo-poo what the Eagles have done lately, yeah, they've done it against some mediocre to bad teams with some mediocre to bad quarterbacks. What will they do in the playoffs against better quarterbacks? I'm intrigued and interested and quite frankly, glad to see or to know that we're going to see how Gannon does that against a good quarterback. They might be facing Matt Stafford. They might be facing Tom Brady, maybe even Kyler Murray. But to me, you're going to get the chance to see what has he learned against these better quarterbacks, because that's what really broke them early in the season. And in the second half of the season, they've been doing a better job against these mediocre quarterbacks. There are some adjustments being made at halftime, but this team, frankly, has gotten off to some slow starts on both sides of the ball. And come playoff time, they're going to have to fix that as well. And that's for Sirianni and Gannon to try to do a little bit better job of scoring points on offense early on and trying to limit. Like you said, they only gave up the 1 touchdown, but still don't allow those long drives.
The 1 touchdown to me, that was the story of the half, is that, okay, they're down, but only 3 field goals. When Washington couldn't put the ball in the end zone, that's when I kind of felt, all right, they're done. What I was surprised with is that the offense didn't score more. I figured they win like 31-16 after the way that it started there. But let's look at some of the offense here. Number 1, Boston Scott. Obviously, Sanders hurt. Jordan Howard wasn't himself. Boston Scott, what does he mean to the offense? You gave him an A.
I gave him an A because if you consider his total yards as well as, and this is what I was considering too, and this is probably more of a credit to the offensive line, but Washington was clearly loading up the box, daring them to beat the Eagles, to beat them through the air and saying, number 1 rushing offense in the league, you're not going to put 175 yards up on us. And to their credit, they still managed to get, I think, 115, 120 yards on the ground, which was really good. And I think Boston Scott, they did a good job, Sirianni did, of using him out of the backfield as a receiver. He was able to be effective there. That helped loosen things up as well. When he could, he was getting his 4 or 5 yards at a time. 2 big 4th down carries that scored touchdowns. I mean, they were 3 for 4 on 4th down after failing on the first one, which was a questionable decision to go for at that point. And I thought Boston Scott, given the fact that they were trying to use Jordan Howard a little bit, it was clear Scott was going to have to carry the load and really try to keep this team moving downfield the way that they have in the past with that run game.
Yeah, and another guy on the offense that I think we should discuss here is Dallas Goedert, and you wrote about him. He got an A, one of the emerging guys, and how important he's become in this offense.
Yeah, and he's another guy who you've seen teams try to start taking away, but there are things that happen, and what really was this was another impressive moment in the game, right? A lot of people are watching the scoring and all that type of stuff and turnovers, sacks, what have you. I'm watching things like the play where Jalen Hurts broke away from the pressure. You can see him rolling out. It's coming and closing in on him from behind, and you don't know if he knows it's there. But in the meantime, when they show a replay and you see the route, Dallas Goedert broke off his route and saw Hurts fleeing towards the sidelines, just simply turned around. That was total improvisation. That was 2 guys being on the same page of knowing what one was going to do in the other the moment they broke from the play. And it was a big completion that got the Eagles down in the red zone. To me, those kind of things that Dallas Goedert has done and that kind of relationship he has formed with his quarterback, those are tough to stop. You can try to take that away. But the moment that you break a play and the defense starts trying to scramble and think they may have a quarterback down for a sack or keep him from running for a first down, Goddard pops open. The guy makes great plays. I love his hands. I love his blocking ability. He, replacing Zach Ertz and filling those shoes, that's a tough ask for anyone. And I think Goddard's doing a really good job of that so far.
All right. We're talking with Scott Grayson. His grades are up at 97.3 ESPN.com. Other guys that stood out yesterday that you gave an A, Josh Sweat, and they're going to need him because this defense, they didn't blitz a lot again yesterday, but they got pressure from their four.
They did, and they're getting more and more pressure from the four. And that's when I wonder, first half of the year it was Javon Hargrave really kind of making some things happen in the middle. Now it seems like opposing defenses have tried to double team him, and Fletcher Cox is starting to have more success in the second half of the season. All the while that's going on, Josh Sweat was flying in yesterday. Boy, he played with, to me, it looked like a different motor. He was definitely pushing that line back and getting winning the battle. And when he wasn't getting to the quarterback, he was definitely creating some havoc and causing, he was winning his battle up front, especially in the second half. And I just think he created a lot of what you saw there. Jannard Avery did get a sack in the game as well on one blitz where they brought him. But for the most part, I thought Josh Sweat has been a guy who's his arrows pointing up in the second half of the season. And you're right, with Brandon Graham out and been out for most of the season, they're going to need him to play a big role in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then obviously they're either going to be the 7 or the 6. You gave the offensive line an A, and that seems like a weekly occurrence. But I guess the question would be, can they upset the apple cart because of this offensive line?
The way that they can command a line of scrimmage and the way that they're able to go on these long drives as a result of having that running game, and the way that they're able to play, why are they so successful in the second half? Well, it's because they are running the ball more. They're wearing down that opposing defensive line. They're able to then in the second half, when that line is getting more and more tired, really start, imposing their will. And the key is to have a lead at that point, or to at least be in the position to take the lead. And you can really start to do some things as an offensive line. These guys have done that. They've been bullies up there. And quite frankly, if they're going to win in the playoffs, this offensive line is going to have to play a big role in that success. So far, these guys have done really, really well. They've had to replace guys. I mean, you don't talk about it, but what would this offensive line be with Brandon Brooks? And they, Landon Dickerson came in here, and nobody expected this from him. Jordan Mailata has been playing at an all-pro level the way he's got his game going. Jason Kelce, of course, is doing what he does. And Mike, that brings up a bigger question in my mind. And I said this last night on Fox 29. I think, while you may want that 6 seed, I value rest and health going into this playoff game over getting the 6 seed. And I would suggest guys like Kelce, Lane Johnson, you can't afford to have them get injured at this point. Rest them. Rest of Jalen Hurts this weekend as well. I'm willing to lose this game, take that 7 seed, and be healthy going into that first playoff game. Don't let me see Jordan Howard. Obviously, no Miles Sanders. Guys like that.
I agree with that. I'm not playing for the 6 seed. I'm in already. All right. At any matchup I'm going to, I have some sort of problem. I'm going against a better roster. Now, Tampa Bay's a banged up roster, right? So maybe they fit a little bit better. And the first time they played, the score was close, but I don't think the game was all that close.
No, it was that was back when again, that defense was playing very passively, and Gannon was getting ripped repeatedly for it week in and week out. They're a different defense since that game. They're an entirely different offense as well. I don't think you can look at that game and really draw too many comparisons or expectations of how this potential playoff game could go. Like you said, Tampa's banged up. They're missing a bunch of guys. You don't want to face the GOAT, but you kind of look at this and say that might be the best matchup. And I guess, maybe be careful what you ask for, but I agree with you. That might not be a bad matchup for this team to potentially go down and steal one.
Yeah, it's pick your poison, really. I mean, Matt Stafford, though, he's got 3 turnovers in 3 straight games. I mean, he has barely been in any playoff action. I just think that going out to L.A., the Eagles have won out in L.A. That's not a big problem going there. So, I don't know. They both have their allure. I think they're going to be at least a touchdown underdog in either game.
I would agree with that. And you know what? I think that fits the personality of this team just fine. They're happy
Oh,
to
boy,
be counted
they
out.
pulling out the masks?
Yeah, I wonder if Lane Johnson's getting ready to do that. That was a lot of fun watching them do that a few years ago, and they rallied around it. It gave them a cause. I don't know if they'll go to that well again. I'm sure many people saw the speech Jason Kelsey gave, which is probably not okay to play on the radio before this last game. But Kelsey is fired up. He's got these guys, behind him as well. Same thing with Lane Johnson and the other veterans on this team. They are just fine with everybody counting them out, and they know they're going to be an underdog in the playoffs. So I don't think they care where they go. I think they believe they can beat either one of those teams, the Rams or the Bucks. I guess there's a chance it could be Arizona as well that they play. And so that, I think this team's got a chance to win all three of those games. I agree with them being an underdog, but don't count these guys out. They definitely believe in themselves. The chemistry in that locker room right now is very strong.
And that comes from Nick Sirianni, who spoke just a little while ago. We'll have his press conference coming up in just a couple of minutes here on 97.3 ESPN. Grayson's grades are posted at 973ESPN.com. And I guess we'll end with this. You gave both linebackers an A. I mean, who would have thought in week 17 of the season, the linebackers would be part of the reason why they won a football game?
Yeah, I think, and I think you have to give Gannon credit here. He has seen what is working and what their strengths are. Alex Singleton early in the season was being asked to cover guys downfield, and that's not a strength of his, not at all. But you see him yesterday attack the line of scrimmage horizontally. That's not easy for some linebackers to do, and I think it's a strength of his. He was really helpful on some of those run plays where, Washington was clearly trying to get to the outside and get the edge, and he came out there, and he was the one who at least, messed up the play enough that somebody else could come up and make a tackle for a very short gain or no gain at all. I think Alex Singleton has settled into that role very well. And I think you look at some of the other linebackers and the things that they're doing, they're proving to be a pretty good bunch right now. And that's a position we've talked about that Howie Roseman just doesn't pay much attention to, at least putting much of a priority to. And I think they found ways that these guys can be successful within their specific strengths to help the team win. Again, they're doing it against some less than stellar talent on the other side of the ball, but they still have to make the plays. They still have to help the team win. They were behind yesterday and had to make those plays in order to allow the offense to get them back. And I think the two linebackers right now that I mentioned are really playing much better.
Yeah, well, they're going to see a big step up. I don't know that they'll play a lot in the Dallas game, but they're going to see a big step up come playoff time. And then you'll really get to measure, all right, where do we have deficiencies that need to be fixed? Because I do think, just being fair, and this is for a lot of teams. I looked at Dallas yesterday. They really only won one game that stands out. They beat the Patriots back in October. Other than that, anybody that was any good, Dallas lost. I mean, they don't really have a signature win for them either. There's not a lot of teams in this league, Scott, that are good, that are signature wins. I mean, if you're beating Kansas City, I guess that's a good win. If you're beating Green Bay, that's a good win. But other than them, I mean, the Rams, I think, have a lot of questions. Arizona obviously has a lot of problems. Tampa's got problems. Buffalo, they've had their issues all year long. Tennessee, without Henry, they've had problems. Tennessee, though, has won 7 games against playoff teams this year.
And they're going to get, it sounds like they're going to get Henry back for the playoffs. To me, the Tennessee Titans could be the team to beat in the AFC. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers are the team to beat in the NFC. But you're right, Mike. Every team has shown their flaws at some point in this season, even the 1 seeds or the potential 1 seeds in this playoffs. I think this is going to be a fascinating postseason to watch. I think there is a chance that a lower seed, we've seen it before, but a lower seed could end up making a little bit of a run. I'm not saying get all the way there, but might win a couple of games and throw all kinds of chaos into the playoff field. And I think that could happen on both sides of the NFL, AFC and NFC. And to me, the NFL's wanted parity. They've wanted a lot of fascinating things. Look at all the different teams that were still alive entering play yesterday. This is what they wanted. This is what they got. I think it's going to be an exciting playoffs. And I do think there's going to be some upsets along the way.
And the Monday Night Football game tonight does have some implications on the AFC side. Pittsburgh is still alive. Cleveland was eliminated yesterday, but Pittsburgh is still very, very, very slim chance to get in for the Steelers. And you can hear that game tonight on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Scott Grayson's grades, they are up right now at 97.3ESPN.com. Check them all out, and they'll be back for the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, who are going to play Saturday night at 8:15. That game has been moved to Saturday night, 8:15, and you can hear the pregame coverage starting at 7 on 97.3 ESPN. Scott, Happy New Year, man.
All right, Happy New Year to you too, Mike.
All right, that's Scott Grayson from Fox 29. And, of course, you hear him for Grayson's grades after every Eagles game here on 97.3 ESPN, the Sports Bash. I'm Mike Gill, taking you till 6. When we come back, Nick Sirianni has some news on Davion Taylor. Does he have an update on Brandon Brooks? Stick around, find out next when we return to the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. And don't forget, you can watch the show live. We're streaming live video on our YouTube channel. We do it every single day. If you're new to the YouTube, subscribe and share, and you can watch the show, be a part of the show in the comments section. We'll play Nick Sirianni's press conference when we come back. Then I will clear out the text message board, and that will lead us to football at 4.
Warby Parker's high-quality glasses start at just $95, including your prescription. Try 5 pairs of frames for free. Go to warbyparker.com to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. That's warbyparker.com.
If you are tired of searching the grocery store for meat you can trust, you need ButcherBox. They're a subscription service that delivers humanely sourced meat and sustainably sourced seafood right to your door. ButcherBox sources their products from partners with the highest standards for quality, which means you can stop combing the grocery aisles and start getting 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, humanely raised pork, and even wild-caught seafood delivered to your doorstep. With ButcherBox, you can select a box that has everything you want all in one place. For a limited time, ButcherBox is offering new members a great deal for the new year. Sign up at butcherbox.com/radio or call us at 1-800-BUTCHER. This deal includes ground beef, chicken thighs, and pork butt. That's more than 7 pounds of meat added to your first box for free. Get the New Year's bundle before it's gone by going to 1-800-BUTCHER to sign up.
Hi, I'm Flo from Progressive. If you love the sports like me, you get annoyed with your team or player. So Progressive's going to help take your mind off your team or that player for a moment. Instead of thinking about how they lost that thing recently, think about Progressive letting you compare our direct rates side by side with competitors to easily find the lowest option. Don't worry, your sports ball team or player will get it next time. Hope this distraction from Progressive about easily comparing rates was helpful to not think about that last game or match or season. I mean, even though I love sports ball.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
As a local bank with deep roots in Cape May County, Crest Savings Bank's directors, management, and employees are all part of your community. We are your neighbors, friends, and family. Our financial centers serve your personal and professional deposit, loan, and wealth management needs. We are thankful for the opportunity to serve our residents and visitors for over 100 years by providing small-town customer service with modern products. Press Savings Bank. Banking is what we do. Community is who we are. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
You say goodbye, I say hello.
With McCarthy, your unneeded things can find a new life. Easily list and sell,
I say goodbye, I say hello.
or discover great finds. Buy or sell almost anything.
You say goodbye, I say hello.
Download Mercari on the app stores or at Mercari.com. Mercari, your marketplace.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook. Or visit our website.
All right, 3:30 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Nick Sirianni, you're going to hear what the Eagles head coach had to say. Update on all the injury situations, Miles Sanders, Brandon Brooks, Davion Taylor, and more. Plus, looking ahead to Dallas. How will they play that game? The Eagles head coach about to speak. We'll have that for you right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan, the all-new Matt Blatt, now open Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Online, mattblattnissan.com. Hopefully, everybody, it is treacherous out there. I mean, those roads, it appears that they were forgotten about today because it was a rough ride for me. I actually got stuck at one point. I had to get out of my car and dig myself out with my bare hands. It's not like I had a shovel in my car. So I'm out there trying to get snow out from under my tires. I'm burning rubber. Rubber's ripping, smelling. I mean, I said, I'm stuck here. So at one point, I texted Josh. Now, Josh is not in today. He could not get here either because the roads were so bad. How long did it take you?
So I couldn't even get to Marmora, and it took me an hour to not even get from where I live to Marmora, and it took me another hour to get home.
So you were in the car for over an hour to go how far?
I was in the car for almost 2 hours to go what it would take me maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, I live about 5 minutes from the radio station, and it probably took me 20 minutes to get here. And then I had to leave for a minute, and I left the station, and I got stuck at – so if you're on – what would that be? New Road, and I don't know what the street is in Northfield, but there's a little right-hand like lane that you kind of make a right to turn back onto New Road.
Okay.
So I don't even know what the store is on the left, but it's like a block up from the school. If you turned right on Tilton Road at the Tilton Market and the Bank of America is right there.
Oh, is that part that goes to Zion Road?
If you go straight across, you're going to go to Zion Road. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I made a right. Now in that right-hand turn lane, it wasn't shoveled out or no one has driven there. So I tried to make that turn and I got stuck. The snow was so deep. Now I'm spinning wheels. I said, Josh, I got bad news, dude, because he's not in the studio today. Right. So I said, I got bad news. I'm stuck right now, and it's 20 after 1. Like, I cannot get out. So I got out of my car, and I'm taking I got like a brush and like a little ice scraper that's attached to the brush. And I'm trying to use the ice scraper to dig snow out from under my tire. Sure. Now, the funny part is, cars are driving down the street, and there's actually like snow plows. And I'm thinking, can I flag one of these guys down? Can they help me out? No, of course not.
Of course not.
So I dug myself out, and I made it. And here I am.
Just in time.
Thrilled to be here today. Let me tell you.
You miss me yet?
We always do. You know, doing the show by yourself I'm used to that. It's the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on that is kind of tedious and a pain in the butt, Like I don't have any reads today. That stuff, I just made that read up. I don't even know if that's on they might have got a freebie today. I'm just assuming that they're still on. It's a new year. I don't know.
They're still on. Yeah.
Right. So I have no reads, none of that stuff. I'm just like winging it right now. But
hey, listen, we're all making the best of a situation. Like I said, when I was telling you earlier, Mike, when I was trying to come in today, I didn't see a snow plow anywhere. The roads weren't treated. I'm going down Route 49, Route 50, major state roads, right? And nothing. Nobody anywhere.
Yeah, I was shocked. Like normally they do it like Tilton Road in Northfield. Typically they do a really good job. Like Tilton Road is a pretty major, very traveled road.
Yeah.
Dude, there was nothing. Nothing. Like I was shocked at how little was done. Like, and this was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not like it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, hey, where is everybody? It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it didn't appear that anything was treated. So the roads are not good out there. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not calling anyone. I'm just saying they're not good. So be careful. That's all.
You got to be careful, especially considering the fact that, the snow's not letting up until it looks like 5 o'clock. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm outside parked, and I'm like the only car. There's like 2 cars in the lot today. And I'm wondering, like, when I leave here, I'll probably be the only person left, I would imagine.
I think there'll be one other person left.
Well, maybe. I don't know. People seem to be getting out of here, man, because it's getting bad. I'm hoping that when I leave, the roads are treated a little better. That's
hope for the best.
All right, let's see what Nick Sirianni has to say. He opens up with the question regarding the game against Dallas this week, and will he sit his starters? Here's head coach Nick Sirianni.
Nick, in terms of your coaching past, have you been and how was that handled, and kind of what was your view there?
I've been in 7 playing games, 7. So, and then there was one time we were locked up in Kansas City. We had won the division in 2010, and we were locked up going into the last game. So, I mean, that was quite some time ago, but the other ones we were playing on week 17, then how many? What did I say? 6, 7. We were in 6 of them, and so we were, obviously that's a different story. But when we were in Kansas City, we rested some guys, but not the whole team again. So I'll look back at that scenario, call Todd Haley, talk to him about it, call some different coaches and see what their opinion is. Again, we'll keep everything on the table. Not sure what we're going to do quite yet.
Go ahead, Martin, and then Jeff.
Lighter type of question. On the TV broadcast, like near the end of the first quarter, you can kind of hear Jalen yelling out Delaware a few times. And obviously, since that's a paper I work for, I was kind of wondering like if there's any kind of significance to that at all, like, what it meant, if it means anything to you guys.
We do. We try to go to great detail to not let those words out there, but I know the camera picks them up sometimes. It's just a competitive advantage when the team knows your words. So, we fight like crazy, Martin, to protect those words, to hide those words, to marry those words together, to mean one thing, but to have something else happen. So I would be giving away a competitive advantage if I was giving that away, what that was. There's things named after states. I'll try to give you something here. There's things named after states. Unfortunately, it didn't have anything to do with the paper that you're working for, but it has meaning for us, and that's why we called it that. Got a beautiful view of Wilmington on the way home yesterday, and traveling. So.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Does it have anything to do with Mount Union?
I know it's Delaware County. I know.
Does it have anything to do with Mount Union?
No.
Casey. All right. Anyway, I guess I'll go light here too, because you know how much I love to go light. What was your reaction to making the playoffs?
If you have a utility meter like this on the side of your house, you could get paid to go solar.
Yeah, it was exciting. I mean, you come home from a game and you are always exhausted, even though, I'm not playing obviously, but that coaching just emotionally takes a lot out of you. And so you're exhausted, you get home. And so by the time that it was actually clinched, I don't let myself get too excited, even though it was 37-10 at one point. You kind of wait until the whole thing. I was ready to go to bed by the end of it, but obviously we're really excited to be in the tournament. And but like I said, we got to focus on beating Dallas and the plan that goes into that. We got to focus on getting better from the game that we played yesterday. But obviously, we're all excited to be in this situation. And the goal is obviously to run it out and go as far as we can in this thing.
Was there any way that the team marked it, or the front office, or your accomplishment of just making the playoffs? And was that like one of those things that you set as a goal before the season?
I think always,
tangibly.
Yeah. I think always your goal, if for whatever reason, you always have the goal of you want to win your division and you want to get into the playoffs. I think that's always the goal of every team, because anything can happen once you get in. So yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that we set that as a goal and we said, hey, our goal is to make the playoffs, but I know that's in the back of everybody's mind each and every year.
Go ahead, John McMullen, and then Zach.
Hi, Nick. Sorry about that. Let's help Martin out here. How often do you change those words, and did he screw up Delaware for you?
That depends. You change the words as you hear them on the television copy. we watch that television copy all the time. There's a lot of good teaching moments in a television copy. When you're watching a tape with the guys, they're very used to seeing all 22 tape and it being a little bit further away. But there's a lot of good things you can use technique wise when you're teaching a wide receiver, when you're teaching a quarterback. The wide receiver, they're right up on them, and obviously on the defensive back as well. The quarterback's like a sky cam view of them behind there. You can really you can kind of put them in virtual reality when you teach them that, like they're in the play, reading the play. There's just so many good teaching moments from it. And you self-scout yourself all the time, right? What are we doing out of this formation? What are we doing in this set? What are we doing out of this personnel grouping? Are we balanced? This and that. Well, you do the same thing with the television copy. What words have they heard? What is that? What do the words mean to them? What are they seeing? And so you're constantly trying to do everything you can do so the defense doesn't have a beat on your offense, and trying to set them off when you think that they might. So we have a running list of those, and now Martin didn't give anything away. That was the first time we've used the word Delaware, because we were changing it from something else, to be completely honest with you. It meant something else, and now it meant that. And next week now, because Martin opened up his mouth, and we're gonna have to change the word again. So I'm just teasing Martin. But we'll change it again. Anything to throw the defense off, we will do, and make it easy for us and harder for them.
Go ahead, Zach, and then Dave.
Hey, Nick, as much as you might keep the blinders on, I'm sure you were the subject of some criticism, some punchlines a few months ago. Is there any sense of vindication for you personally, given how the season transpired?
Nah, I don't look too much into that. Again, I try not to hear that outside noise. I know sometimes that you're going to hear it, because obviously that's part of my job is to do the media multiple times in a week, and you naturally hear some of that stuff when you're prepping to do when Bob's prepping me to do the media. But everyone's got a job to do, and when we weren't playing good, there was criticism. When we're playing good, you get you get praise, and that's. I think when it's the quarterback and the head coach, they get, I think when you're winning, you probably get more praise than what you deserve. And when you're losing, you probably get more criticism than what you deserve. So I know everybody's got a job to do. And my job is to block out the outside noise, whether it's telling me that I'm really good and this is how I want our players to think as well, or whether it's telling me that I stink and that my catchphrases about growing roots stink. No, but my job is to block all that out and to focus at the task at hand. And I respect everybody's job of what they have to do. I really do. And hopefully I'm helping you guys do your job the way you guys need to do it.
Go ahead, Dave, and then Mike.
Nick, are there any things you've learned about yourself this year that you wouldn't have known if you weren't a head coach?
That's a good question, Dave. I don't know. I've been doing this football coaching thing for a long time, been raised in it. I don't think so. I'd have to kind of catch me off guard with that a little bit. So I don't have a great answer for you. Let me think about that. Ask me again on Thursday. Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'll have a better answer for you.
All right.
Go ahead,
You
Mike,
got
and
another
then
question?
EJ.
Dave, you got anything else?
Yeah, sure. I'll double down here. We saw Jalen yesterday kind of buy some time and keep his eyes downfield. What does that take for a young quarterback with his skill set to learn that and figure out when to do that and when not to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you're always, when you escape the pocket, you always want as a quarterback to be able to make the play downfield with your arm and then run. And Jalen has gotten better and better at that as the years went on. And so I think what you just see is he sees it on tape and he sees the guys. I think the entire team has gotten better at that, right? It's not just Jalen. It's how, like, if you looked at Dallas and the, Dallas Goedert on the one where he breaks up the seam, he retraces and comes back to the football and Jalen gets the ball to him. And he finds the open area. And then the same thing with Greg Ward. Greg runs a sit over the ball. Jalen breaks right, Greg mirrors him, and we get a big play from it. So it's not just, a ton of it's on Jalen extending the play, keeping his eyes downfield, but you'd be surprised how much technique and detail go into the receivers and the tight ends and the backs finding the open spaces and how they find the open spaces. And we've gotten better at that as the year went on. I think, when Jalen was making plays with his feet early on, what we said to ourselves is, man, we're a couple scramble throws away from being really explosive at this thing. And that's been an emphasis as us as coaches and as players. And I know we've gotten better at that in a lot of different areas, and it really showed up yesterday.
All right, we have time for 2 more. So go ahead, Mike, and then EJ.
Hey, Nick, I know the last time the league moved a game last minute, it was very last minute, and you just kind of found out on the fly. Was there any communication between the league and you guys before the decision was made to have you guys play the Cowboys on Saturday? And if so, you're playing 4 games in 19 days. Have they told you kind of what to expect from a playoff scheduling standpoint because of that change?
There was rumblings about it that we might play Saturday, and so we knew a little bit. Again, I didn't know for sure. And
was that before
and then
this
I found
game?
out. What's that?
Just to clarify, was that before this game or after?
That was while I was watching the game.
Okay.
And then and then we found out for sure, kind of probably 5 minutes before you knew. And then what was the second part of your question, Mike? I'm sorry.
Have they told you anything about potential playoff timeline because you guys have had such a quick turnaround here?
No, they haven't. They haven't mentioned. We haven't asked, and they haven't mentioned that about what if you're a Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. Now there's a Monday night game now, right? I believe. And so we don't know anything about that. And like I said, it's gonna be hard for me to press and talk. I know you guys are gonna try to get me to talk about the playoffs. I'm gonna talk about Dallas. So I haven't really thought too much about it. So we're just trying to get ready for Dallas.
Last one here with EJ.
Hey, Nick, I might actually try to get you to talk about the playoffs a little bit here if you could tolerate one more on it. So I'm wondering if you have any updates on Miles, and then the guys on IR. I guess maybe not for this week, but for next week. Like Brandon Brooks or Davion Taylor. Do they have a chance to come back?
Well, Davion is officially out for the year because he's been put on IR twice, so he's unable to come back. No new update on Brandon, and then with Miles, I'm not thinking Miles is going to be up this week. I'm not ruling it out, but I'm not thinking he's up this week, and hopefully he'd be up, the following week. That's why this with Miles, it's easy to talk about the playoffs, right? Because you didn't put him on IR because you wanted to get him back in that 3-week span. So hopefully, I know he's progressing well. I'm not putting a timetable on him, but you guys know we're hopeful that we can get him back, for the opening round of the playoffs. But no other update on the other guys.
Thanks for the time, Coach.
Thanks, everybody.
That's Nick Sirianni. There you go. A lot of interesting things to take a look at as we listen to the head coach talk about the win. They want to talk a lot about the playoffs. He mentioned that Sanders could possibly play. I wouldn't play him this week anyway, but I guess that's a good sign that he could be ready for a couple of weeks from now in the playoffs. No news on Brandon Brooks. I guess that's a little ominous. I was hoping Brooks could be ready. They didn't put him on IR the whole season, in hopes that he could possibly come back. And now he might not come back at all, even if they make the playoffs. And Davion Taylor, done for the year. So those are 3 injuries. Other than that, the Eagles made it through yesterday healthy. Team's healthy and ready to go for Dallas on Saturday night. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And, of course, if you're watching the show live on the YouTube channel, you can stream the show live video, youtube.com, search 973 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. When we come back, Jeff Mosher has football at 4 as the Eagles are going to the playoffs.
Parker was created to change that. They design and produce their own eyewear and then sell it directly to you for a fraction of the price. Warby Parker's high-quality glasses start at just $95, including your prescription. Try 5 pairs of frames for free. Go to warbyparker.com to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. That's warbyparker.com.
O'Reilly. Get ready for winter weather and save money at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Replace your old wiper blades with a new pair of Rain-X Advantage wiper blades and save $10 now at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Our professional parts people will even install them for free. Plus, earn double O-Rewards points. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Everyone loves shopping online. Well, I'm going to tell you what I tell my golf buddies when they buy clubs. Stop searching for coupon codes. Download Capital One Shopping to your computer. Capital One Shopping instantly searches for available coupon codes and automatically applies them at checkout. Plus, it's free, and you don't even need a Capital One card to use it. That's like hitting a hole-in-one without even trying. Capital One Shopping. It's kind of genius. What's in your wallet?
Savings and available coupons vary.
Only Wendy's serves a better breakfast with a better biscuit. Our hot, buttery breakfast biscuits are loaded with a fresh cracked egg, cheese, and your choice of bacon or sausage. Did we mention the part where Wendy's biscuits are hot and buttery?
Wendy's breakfast biscuits, hot and buttery.
So don't take a chance with those other guys. Bet on a better breakfast with Wendy's bacon or sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish is...
It's pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive, bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said now we speak Spanish.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
At Church's, we're doing 10 pieces of our crave-worthy comfort made spicy or classic. That's 10 legs and thighs packed with bold flavor. That's how we do value. So you can do the Church's 10 starting at $10.99 deal. Church's, bringing that down home flavor. Offer valid at participating locations.
Health update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
As we make changes for the new year, one thing to add to the list, a good night's sleep. After another challenging year, the new year is the perfect time to make sleep a priority. Sleep deprivation is a huge problem. Most adults need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, but studies show we're getting much less. When we don't get enough sleep, our memory is compromised, our immune system is at risk, and we are easily irritated. Lack of sleep is even linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attack, and stroke. In addition, sleep deprivation contributes to auto accidents and work-related injuries. If you're having trouble falling or staying asleep, talk with your doctor about possible underlying medical conditions. Getting a good night's sleep is one of the most important steps we can take toward living a healthier life. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health update with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life.
It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan. Looking for some holiday cash? Then don't miss Matt Blatt Nissan's holiday vehicle buyback. It doesn't matter what you drive. AJ the trade man wants to buy your vehicle today. Regardless of the make, miles, condition, or situation, AJ will buy your ride for cash today. That's right, AJ at Matt Blatt Nissan will buy your vehicle for cash today. Treat yourself to a brand new Nissan. Like zip, zero, zilch, zero down, zero payments, zero interest on every new Matt Blatt Nissan. That's a brand new Nissan with 0% financing, 0 payments for 90 days, and 0 money down. And AJ says you'll get more cash than you think. And drive away with peace of mind, because only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy. MattBlattNissan.com. Paid equity will be refinanced as new vehicle. Rate qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 2777 per thousand borrowed. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 1/5/2022. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Right now, people are home with their pets more often, and I think now, especially with shedding, they're more cognizant of what's going on and that it's an actual issue. And Dynavite has helped tremendously in our house with that.
I just heard the Dynavite commercial so many times, so I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And I ordered it and tried it, and it worked.
The Dynavite, being at home, working with them, they all love it.
Me and Chewy are together 24/7.
Within 3 every week. He's not scratching and itching, and he's an all-around happier dog.
DINOVIP.com.
Hey, everybody, it's Mike Gill again for my guys over at PropSwap.com and the PropSwap app. Well, we're getting down to the final days of college football, but plenty of money to be made, Luke Pergandy. We had a bunch of long shots at one point that people out there, prop swappers out there, could make some big money on with these college football games.
Yeah, 3 of the remaining 4 teams were long shots at some point this season. One Cincinnati, and even Alabama before they beat Georgia in that SEC championship was 8-1. You sold tickets at all 3 of those teams at all 3 of those numbers, and it is now your last chance to lock in some cash.
NFL playoffs, a ton of great prop swapping stories, Luke Pergandy. Let's get into some big money possibilities. Such a fluid season, so wide open, and that seems like a good thing for prop swappers.
Yeah, I think, the Colts are a nice example. They were 101. Colts started out 1-4 this season. They look to be one of the top teams in the league, if not the AFC. And of course, Tampa, Green Bay. Green Bay was 15-1. They're down to 4-1. Kansas City was almost 20-1 when they started out so slow this season. So, I mean, there's just pros of teams.
Start the new year off with a little extra cash. Go to PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app. Swappers making money, man. Get Prop Swappers. PropSwap, America's sports betting market. PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today.
Have you ever wondered why eyeglasses cost so much? The eyewear industry has been dominated by a single company that's kept prices artificially high.
Yikes.
Warby Parker was created to change that. They design and produce their own eyewear and then sell it directly to you for a fraction of the price. Warby Parker's high-quality glasses start at just $95, including your prescription. Try 5 pairs of frames for free. Go to warbyparker.com to pick your 5.
Media station. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Jeff Mosher.
I think our track record in the last 20 years has taught playoff appearances and appearances in the NFC Championship game. Share our record with almost anybody.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Tia Studios. This is Football.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Jeff Mosher is here as we lead you into 2022. The Eagles are going to the playoffs. Who knew? It feels like 2022 might be a good year there, Jeff Mosher. How about that?
Well, I hope it's better than 2021 and 2020, Mike. It's hard to be worse, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, last year was 4-11-1, a COVID situation, no fans. So last year was a dreadful season. 2019, they made the playoffs. 2018, they made the playoffs. 2017, they won the Super Bowl. This is 4 out of 5 seasons the team has made the playoffs here. But this one's probably the least, the one that you believe that was going to happen the least out of all 4.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And not just because they were 2-5, but because going into the year, I think even more so going into the year, because they just didn't have the look of a playoff team, and you just didn't know what the rest of the NFC landscape looked like. At 2-5, as bad as they were never out of it because the NFC was in general so light. But yeah, going into the year, I thought the Eagles were a 6 to 8 win team. They have now won 9, and they have a chance to win 10.
Yeah, and obviously they have a chance to win 10 with Dallas this week. Let's start with that. Nick Sirianni just finished up a little while ago. He wasn't clear on what he's going to do this Sunday. What do you think he'll do this Saturday night?
I mean, if you look at everything that's transpired since Nick Sirianni became head coach, and some of this is Nick, and some of it I believe is still Howie and Jeffrey on how they feel that the organization should be run from a sports science standpoint. You go back to training camp; they had shorter training camp practices. They didn't play anybody in the preseason games, including Jordan Howard, who didn't play in the preseason finale, and he wound up getting cut anyway. So all the evidence seems to suggest that they will rest as many players as they possibly can against Dallas.
Yeah, and there's two schools of thought. I don't know that there's a right one or a wrong one. All I would say is they've played a lot of football in the last 3 weeks here, so I don't really have a preference on being the 6 or the 7 and who you're facing. I think I probably sit the guys out this week.
Yeah, I think that at this point, maybe if you're a different team, if you're expected to be there, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and home field matters and things like that, I mean, you start examining matchups. But I think for the Eagles, the bigger picture is not that it's house money. Maybe it is in a sense, but you just want to have the healthiest team going into the playoffs to see what you can do.
Yeah, you tweeted something out today that a lot of people were coming after you about. Hey, a playoff quarterback, there's an extra team, house money. I feel like even though they got in, it's maybe the 7 seed, maybe they wouldn't have got in if there wasn't an extra playoff team. But this is a kind of a house money situation. They won 4 games last year. They have $65 million in dead cap money. I mean, there were very few expectations for this team.
Yeah, and to talk about a tweet that people interpreted, and that happens on Twitter quite often. I don't know why people thought I was just talking about the Eagles or any. I guess people thought I was just talking about either Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni, but I mean this about. I was really just looking at the entire landscape and how owners judge things. I mean, you used to say, "Hey, this team was good. They made the playoffs." 3 out of 4 years. But if you got the 7th seed, then you wouldn't have made the playoffs in other years, right? And then you wouldn't have. So we've seen coaches get fired after not making the playoffs, even if they finished with an even record. So I was just curious on how the new movement of the goalposts on the 7th seed was going to impact our thinking. The same way, Mike, we think about Pro Bowl quarterback, right? Not as the way we thought about it 5 or 10 years ago, because now every third alternate winds up making the Pro Bowl, and you get 7 Pro Bowl quarterbacks. So that's all I was suggesting. But to your point, I think that the Eagles got the best of both worlds. They got to make the playoffs. They got to get a year of Jalen Hurts. He led them to the playoffs, and they also get 3 first-round picks. Now, those aren't going to be top 10 picks like they were back in September, but I think most people would choose the playoff run and the 3 middle to lower first-round picks anyway.
Right. It's not like because you made the playoffs, the picks are being extracted. You get to keep those picks in addition to having a playoff team. I think making the playoffs with those picks and how they've kind of turned things around. Like when you take a look at where this organization kind of sits right now, when you come on the show, Jeff, we have that bite from Jeff Lurie. Like I'll put my resume of our team up against anybody. They sent the message out yesterday, the Eagles, 17th winning season under Jeff Lurie, 4 out of 5 years in the playoffs. I mean, we talked about it all year. They don't really have back-to-back losing seasons. I harped on that at the beginning of the year. They don't really have a lot of back-to-back losing seasons. And people who ask about Howie Roseman's job, this is why Jeff Lurie keeps him around.
Yes, this is one of the many reasons I should say that he keeps him around. This year is a strange year for Howie Roseman judgment because it was a transition year, and some of that transition was fueled by mistakes made by the GM and the front office from last year. And some of the reasons for success, I would say, are more related to what Howie's done in the past than he specifically did this year. Look, I mean, for this year's team, Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson and Milton Williams have been good. So you look at the first 3 draft picks, and they've all contributed in a positive way, and that's a good thing. The free agent moves, okay, Anthony Harris has been okay. I don't think he's been a difference maker. Eric Wilson got released, so that wasn't a very good move. And Ryan Kerrigan is net neutral. He didn't give you anything great. He didn't hurt you too much. What's made them good this year, right, is their offensive line and defensive line. And most of the contributions you're getting from that are just moves that Howie has made in the past because he always builds up these lines. So instead of saying Howie Roseman had a good year or a bad year. I think you should say Howie Roseman has a good philosophy about building in the trenches that helps them avoid what you just said, which is having back-to-back, like, down year. Yeah, you can go through it like they did last year. Any team can kind of have that happen to them. Not any team, but, you've seen it. But the reason why it's hard for the Eagles to continuously be bad is because they invest so much on that offensive and defensive line. Like Hargrave was a signing from the 2020 season, not this season, but it's somebody who's paid off even more so this year than last year.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things is going to be, they have that $64 million dead cap number. You said, well, they signed these guys in free agency. They didn't really help. To be fair, they didn't really have a lot of options in free agency. They had no money. They had no ability
Yeah. That wasn't a criticism. That was just a point that if you're judging Howie, because I don't like judging anybody by one specific year, especially a GM. But if you're just doing like, did Howie Roseman have a good year? There's really nothing this year that he did outside the first 3 picks, right? That's so outstanding. Like, you're right, he didn't have a lot of money, so he couldn't really do anything through free agency. He didn't make any blockbuster trades. Again, like Darius Slay, that was a really good trade 2 years ago that is now this year really helping him out, like the Hargrave signing.
Well, it's funny because the Hargrave signing and the Slay signing were both predicated on them thinking they were there in 2019. Like they thought, or, in 2020, they thought that they were right there and wanted to take one more shot at it. And that's why they made the Slay and Hargrave moves. And then, of course, the season blows up in their face. And then those players are now helping this particular team out.
Yes, that's a good look at it. They brought in those guys to help the defense. They clearly got hit so badly with injuries on the offensive line. And then, to Howie's discredit, he did not build a very good receiving core for Carson Wentz either. And then, of course, Goddard and Ertz were hurt also last year at different times. So that hurt them as well. But, they're on their rebuild back up. I think the biggest question is, Mike, what does it all mean for the offseason and for next year? I really don't know. It could mean that they're a team on the rise. It could mean that they're like Washington, made the playoffs one year, won the division even, and then the next year they just didn't do enough to compete. You can only rely on, playing really crappy teams so much, right? And they've gotten a good streak, but you credit them for beating those teams because they're not that great of a team themselves, and they've beaten those other teams that aren't great. So a lot of credit for them on that.
Right. I mean, and to be fair, I looked at this last night because Dallas has won 11 games, and I'm thinking, all right, let me go through Dallas' schedule. They've really only beat one team either as well.
Correct.
I mean, they beat New England back in October when New England was kind of finding their way. Now they ended up with 10 wins. It turned out to be a pretty good team. But most of Dallas's 11 wins have come against some – remember, they played a similar schedule to Philadelphia because they're playing in the same division. There's only 2 games that are really different. The Eagles played the Jets where Dallas played New England, and I don't remember who the other one was. But I guess the part of it is there's not a lot of elite teams to kind of measure yourself up against. You're constantly playing teams that are stuck in this, middle ground.
It's funny. I agree with you. And I even made the point, I don't know if it was when you and I were talking last week or somebody, I said, on a totally different note, I feel like Coach of the Year voting is so skewed. It's more about your expectations than what you actually did. If you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, yes, I get it. They're a really good team. They also rebuilt their entire offensive line and lost some guys too. But if you look at their schedule, they've beaten some really good teams this year. And Andy Reid would never get Coach of the Year because it's like he's almost too good now.
I think it's got to be. I think it's got to be Vrabel.
Vrabel absolutely would be at the top of my list. Yeah,
they've won 7 games against playoff teams this year.
Yeah, and without Derrick Henry, they were able to keep it up. I absolutely think Vrabel should be the number 1 guy on the list. But to your point, there's just not that many. That's why I think that's why I would put my money on Kansas City to be in the Super Bowl, because they've gone out there and they beat Baltimore when Baltimore was really good. They beat Cleveland earlier in the year. They have good wins. They beat the Packers for what that's worth. So that's a team that has proven it can beat some of the best teams in the NFL on a consistent basis. And
all right.
You look at the Eagles and Cowboys, to your point, and they really haven't beaten anybody.
Jeff Mosher, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast. I said last week, I maintain I think the Eagles' offense is a playoff offense. They can hang in a game because they can run the ball, they can shorten a game, they can make it an ugly game. I'm not sure that they have a playoff defense, even what the numbers are telling me. Yesterday's first half, why I didn't panic, I at no point felt like I thought them getting holds, field goals. I tweeted this out, guys going back and forth. I said, dude, Washington will not score in the second half. They got 3 field goals. They missed their opportunity to take that game. The Eagles did their job, 3 field goals. I said, Washington ain't scoring. That's it. They're going to make the adjustment. They did. That said, other teams are going to take advantage of what kind of defense the Eagles played in the first half. That's my worry.
Yeah, and honestly, even though they played better defense in the second half, and I thought that was really the turning point, Sweat had a big sack and Avery had a big sack in the third quarter. That final drive by Washington, it has to drive you crazy. The first 2 plays are incomplete passes by Heineke. The first one gets tipped by Milton Williams. The second one, he's rushed and has to throw it to Smallwood, and it's not even catchable. And then 3rd and 10, I'm shocked. I mean, I shouldn't be shocked, but here's an example where I think you've got to come after the quarterback, because if you come after him, he has to throw the ball quickly or else he's going to get sacked. He can't get sacked there, right? It's 3rd and 10. If he throws the ball quickly, that he probably doesn't have enough time to hit a receiver who past the marker. The receiver has to catch the ball short of the sticks because you've rushed the quarterback. Well, they sat back in the softest zone you've ever seen, and they let the tight end catch a 10-yard pass. And then 6 plays later, they're sitting there throwing a ball up into the end zone for a chance to win the game. And so to your point, I agree with you there, and I'm really surprised sometimes by when Jonathan Gannon decides he's not going to be aggressive and when he is.
Yeah, that and at the end of the half. I mean, they had a shot to really strangle Washington late, and then they held them to 3, but still they should have never given up 3 in that situation.
I completely agree with you. It's funny because Adam and I were arguing on the podcast about first-round opponents and who we think would be the worst and best for the Eagles. And I think the Rams would be a really bad matchup for the Eagles because they're so well-rounded offensively. Not that they're perfect, but they can run the ball really well if they want to. And, of course, they have weapons in Kupp and Odell Beckham. Whoever has to line up across Steven Nelson will have some advantage, and they can throw the tight end pretty well. And I can't see Jonathan Gannon's defense being able to contain it very well. Whereas maybe you look at Dallas without Michael Gallup, they become a little less, of a deep threat team. And then you look at Arizona, it's sort of struggled. I know they beat Dallas, but they've kind of struggled without DeAndre Hopkins at times, and they don't run the ball especially well like the Rams can. So I mean, it'll be interesting.
Well, what do you like Tampa? I mean, the first time they played, it was 28-22. The score looks close, but I don't think the game was all that close. But Philly is a lot different team that played Tampa on that Thursday night, and Tampa is a lot different team that played on that Thursday night.
Yeah, they're sans one wide receiver going crazy, who is very important to them, and going crazy or already was, but and hopefully Antonio Brown does get help. But yeah, they are not as fearsome without Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. But having said that, that was a pretty impressive comeback because they still have Tom Brady, and he's throwing touchdowns to guys I've never heard of in my entire life. What was it, Cyril Grayson, who caught the touchdown?
Not Scott Grayson, Harry.
No, not Scott Grayson. So I think anytime you have to face Tom Brady in the playoffs, you're not happy about
That's the one thing. It's like the Tampa team, I think, is a lesser team. But why would anybody ask to play Tom Brady on the road? Whereas the Rams, I'm not a big Stafford guy. I feel like Stafford can lose the game for the Rams, but the rest of their team worries me more.
Yeah, I think that's true. You would not want Tom Brady to be the Rams quarterback and having to face them, and you'd rather face the Buccaneers if Stafford was their quarterback than Tom Brady. But unfortunately, you don't get either. And look, I think that the fascinating part of the conversation is, and unfortunately, it won't be answered next week because I'm guessing starters will rest. But
yeah, there's a tweet that just came out from Tom Pelissero. Essentially, a ton of Eagles players have just tested positive for COVID.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, either way, then that just makes the Saturday game even more.
Yeah, it looks like Fletcher Cox, Dallas Goedert, Jason Kelsey.
It's amazing how well the Eagles did. And then all of a sudden, wow, Herbig, Jordan Howard, Jason Kelsey, Avonte Maddox. It's amazing how well they controlled this compared to the rest of the league. And then all of a sudden they clinch, and then everybody
Sounds
half the
like
roster.
sounds like there was a New Year's Eve party.
Yeah, seriously. It must have
Right?
been.
I mean,
Yep.
to have that many people all coming down. Now, luckily, you don't need those guys this week.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
What do you what do
By
you
the
think
way,
of the whole?
a lot of these guys might have been able to come back and play anyway, even if it was an important game, the way you can come back now.
Yeah. I mean, Carson Wentz played on Sunday, for God's sakes. I mean, not very
Right.
well, but still.
Right.
What is your take, insight? What do you know about the whole Brandon Brooks thing?
Mike, there's something strange there, only because can a pectoral tear last this long? Yeah, it could. But I do remember Lane Johnson earlier in the year said something about Brandon being able to come back hopefully soon. He said it was a partial tear or a strain. So, and the fact that Nick Sirianni can't even say he's dealing with the pec tear still, or pec injury still, he says no update, no update, no update. It makes it hard not to think that there's not something else going on there. But then you're just speculating.
If he was healthy enough to play, do they put him in there sight unseen?
Well, boy, that's a tough question to ask. I mean, if this has all been
I ask the tough questions, baby.
You do, man. If this has all been
2022 is a new year.
My feet are being held to the fire. If it's all a pectoral injury, sometimes you are not able to lift weights and do the same kind of strength training that you normally can do, because you have to wait for that thing to completely heal before you can really start benching again, and you're not conditioned. So I don't know that he'd be able to just step right in and play right away if it's just a pectoral injury that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, because Herbig, obviously, he got hurt. He came back yesterday. We talk about the success of this team, and the offensive line's a big reason. But keep in mind, they have played 5 different right guards and 4 different left guards this year. They've had to use 2 different left tackles and 2 different right tackles, and Herbig has played center on numerous occasions.
They've done a really good job investing in the offensive line. We've talked about that for a long, long time. A lot of people didn't think that the Eagles would need another offensive lineman in the second round this past year. A lot of people were disappointed that it was Dickerson because of the injuries. And now you think, well, geez, if they hadn't drafted him and Driscoll the last 2 years and then signed Nate Herbig as a free agent, where would they be? Right. And so now you see the amazing thing to me is, why don't more teams do this? I'll never understand why more teams don't, because the teams that are in the playoffs every year, or the teams that are and the strong teams, are ones that usually heavily invest in the offensive line.
It's a great point, Moshe, and it's funny because Howie is hated here. Why? Because he took Rieger and the other team has Jefferson. Jefferson's sitting at home. Rieger's in the playoffs. Why? Minnesota can't pick an offensive lineman to save their life. And yes, it's maddening that Roseman misses on Jefferson, but he covers for it because he takes offensive linemen, and Minnesota, a team like them, do not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Minnesota has struggled for years now, piecing together an offensive line.
Who wouldn't rather have Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson? That offense should win Super Bowls every single year with those skill guys, right?
Yeah, you would think.
I mean, it goes to show. But I think Minnesota really goes to show offensively what is important, because that team with that skill, they should be at minimum a playoff team yearly.
Yeah, and you know what? They probably would if their defense got crushed, the defensive line this year as well. They're usually a better defensive team as well. There have been some games where they scored points and just lost because of that.
And then
but
you
you're
go,
right, the quarterback
you go
gets hit
to
a lot.
Atlanta, Moshe. They had Ridley and Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, and their offensive line was a disaster for post-Super Bowl. They were horrible offensive line down there. And, a lot of those teams that have even the Giants have good skill guys. Their offensive line is just a disaster.
And they drafted offensive linemen high the last few years. They've signed a few. They've tried to develop, and they've done a terrible job at it.
Oh, absolutely. So, look, I get the maddening.
Sort of makes Jeff Stoutland probably the most important person in the organization, perhaps even more than Howie is.
Crazy. Yesterday, Jalen Hurts, I thought he played – the numbers won't jump, but I thought he played an excellent game yesterday.
What I liked about his game, Mike, was that the Eagles didn't really run the ball with the same type of ferocity as they've been doing it throughout their winning ways here. They were actually just an okay running team. 3 point something per carry was not very good, although that was skewed a little bit by the short yardage runs. So they needed their quarterback to make some more plays in the passing game. And they only scored 20 points. It's not going to cut it against most teams, but and they were bad on third down. So even though he didn't have a great game and the running game wasn't great, the one thing I really, really like and respect about Jalen Hurts is that he very rarely gives the opponent the football. Taylor Heineke throws the interception at the end of the game. He leads the NFL at the end of the game in interceptions. Heineke is an overachiever. He's probably a backup. He's starting right now. Same thing with Jalen Hurts, sort of an overachiever. Second-round pick, you never know what you're going to get. Has started the season and has done a really nice job protecting the football as he learns and improves in the passing game, which a lot of young quarterbacks don't do.
Yeah, but and that I agree with a lot of what you said. There were some plays, though, that he made that I questioned early in the year that he could make. He eludes the pressure, steps up, fires one off the front foot, zips one to, I guess it was Goddard down there on the right-hand side. The one that he ripped in there to Greg Ward, he made some progressions to do that. I thought he did a really good job looking downfield, and then, boom, hitting Boston Scott out of the backfield. We don't see a whole heck of a lot with that. I thought he showed a lot of patience. I thought he made a really good throw. I think it was to Watkins down the left sideline early in the game. He got air under it. He actually overthrew him a little bit. That's a play that I think down the road they can go back to. The throw to Rieger, Jesus, Rieger. Catch the ball with your hands, not your freaking forearms. My God, is he bad?
I'm trying to think. The Rieger one, he had to kind of wrap himself around the
He's
defense,
fallen, but God's sake, the ball hits him in the forearm.
Well, it doesn't help that Rodney McLeod basically makes the same type of catch as a
That's
safety.
what I'm saying. The ball hits you in the forearm. Catch the ball, dude. I don't know. I thought he made some good reads, some good throws. Nothing crazy, not these explosive bombs or just smart chain-moving plays.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Smart chain-moving plays. And honestly, his 22-yard run on third down was great. It showed that his
and I like the fact that he is not. Maybe it's his ankle. I don't know, but he's not getting run happy. He's running when he needs to, not because he wants to or has to.
Yeah, no, I think it's a big part of the development of his game. Yeah. The offseason, if he's the quarterback, which we'll see what happens. I would think that the arrow tilts that way.
Yeah,
is all about working on you're seeing the entire field and working your progressions maybe from high to low instead of low to high. As people who watch the tape tend to say, he works low to high, which is kind of backwards.
I thought yesterday he went high to low.
Yeah, so I think that, but as far as staying in the pocket to deliver, I think that has improved over the course of the year.
By the way, Moshe, I am deteriorating live on the air here. I'm deteriorating. Yeah, I was fine when the day started. I'm deteriorating live on the radio right now. I'm hoping to get to the finish line.
Oh, man, you don't sound that bad to be honest. So you must be doing a pretty good job hiding it.
My car got stuck. I had to get out of my car and dig it out with my bare hands in the snow at the stop sign over there. I feel like chilly all of a sudden. I'm achy. Yeah.
Were you around a lot of people, or you think you're getting COVID or something?
No, no, there's nobody in here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it was nice to talk to you, pal.
Always nice, and hopefully I'm going to say you're probably questionable for Wednesday as we sit here now, and we'll see where you are tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll update you tomorrow. All right?
All right. Appreciate it. Feel better.
Jeff Mosher, the Inside the Birds podcast, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Of course, Andrew's here tomorrow. He was at the game in Washington. We'll get his observations on what he saw and a lot of Eagles conversation throughout the course of the week. Yeah, man, I said to Josh, I said, man, I don't know that I'm making it. I'm deteriorating right before my own very eyes. I'm like, oh, man, just got hit. My legs feel really achy. My gosh. I will push on through to the end, though. You will get a full effort from me today. For those of you watching the show on YouTube, you probably see that I look like I am deteriorating. I'm wearing a hooded sweatshirt. You never see me wear a hooded sweatshirt if you're a regular YouTube watcher, right? I mean, this is a rare feat for me to have a hoodie on. We'll come back with my thoughts on NFL Week 17. There were some wild games and a team that I have to buy into now, kind of. I'll explain. Coming up next.
This is a message for the people of Cape May County. For over a year, we've been doing the hard work necessary to slow the spread of COVID. Over 60,000 county residents have been vaccinated, but that leaves about 35,000 residents left to get their shots. We've said all along that it's not over yet. Lately, our numbers have gone up, but they remain well below the highs we saw last winter. There's no need to panic, but you should be careful and mask up indoors when social distancing is difficult. We know that the more people we have vaccinated, the more we slow the spread of the virus. Please call the Cape May County Department of Health at 609-465-1187 and find out how easy it is to get the vaccine. Once again, that number is 609-465-1187. You can get vaccinated. It's easy. Be careful and get vaccinated so we can all finish strong, safely together.
Before Bamboo HR, I feel like crying just thinking about it.
We were still handling everything via paper, and we literally had paper staff.
It was all in spreadsheets and like folders.
From the moment I started using it, I felt calmer.
As soon as we started using the Bamboo onboarding checklist, I mean, it was extremely easy.
Headcount, turnover, years of service. Like there's just so many different reports that I use at different points in times. I'm like totally set free to focus on the people, to focus on development, to focus on team dynamics.
It's freeing me up to do more of the stuff that actually matters in HR, which is interacting with people, learning from them, and then building stuff for them.
Everything is in this one place. I can't even imagine what it would be like without Bamboo HR.
We're Bamboo HR, and we'd love to set you free to do great work. Come try our award-winning all-in-one HR software for free with no strings attached. Visit bamboohr.com/hats for this free trial offer. That's bamboohr.com/hats.
Football is here. Get in on the action and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now or visit DraftKings Sportsbook at Resorts Casino Hotel for the ultimate sports betting experience with massive TVs and game day drink specials. For a limited time, DraftKings Online Sportsbook is offering new customers $200 in free bets instantly once they bet $1 on any football game. Get in on the action with promo code RESORTS or visit DraftKings Sportsbook at Resorts Casino Hotel. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey only. New mobile customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Creamy nut butter makes it delightfully sweet. Roasted nuts make it perfectly salty. Get two great tastes in one delicious bar. Enjoy a Nature Valley sweet and salty nut bar today.
Now, back to more Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, 4:33 here on the Sports Bash. I'm Mike Gill. Jeff Mosher, thanks to him. As always, football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. All right, Josh, we've got all these scenarios now. Yesterday went the Eagles' way. We always do, like, who you're rooting for, what are the teams that you're rooting for. You were rooting for San Francisco. They won. You were rooting for Green Bay. They won. So basically everything you needed to happen kind of went your way. The only one, I guess, was New Orleans. If they would have lost, they would have been out too. So it doesn't matter. The Eagles are in now. Now it all comes down to some seeding stuff. But the team that I got to give some props to, do you know who I'm talking about?
Got to give props to. I'm leaning toward. Are you going to give props to the Cardinals for finally bouncing back?
I mean, I guess I got to give a little props. That's not the team because I just think Dallas is so poorly coached that.
Okay.
Right.
I was laughing so much when you were saying that in the first hour. It's so true, by the way.
Yeah. The team I have to give credit. There's really two teams, but the one is I got to give credit to Cincinnati, man. You know, they're down in that game, and they're one of the teams early in the year. I gave grief. We just talked about skill players. They took Chase ahead of Penei Sewell, and I ripped them for that because, quite frankly, I think they still need offensive line help.
A lot of people ripped them for that.
But Chase is unbelievable, man.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, that dude, he's making catches and plays, and you're just like, is this real? He breaks the rookie record, breaks the Bengals single-game record for receiving. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. So they got something there. That pick to me was akin to Dallas took CeeDee Lamb. They didn't really need CeeDee Lamb. They had other areas they could have fixed. That was Cincinnati to me. They took Chase, the best player, but they didn't really need Chase. He's unbelievable. So I was off on that. I've been off on them. I didn't believe in him. I didn't believe in him. You beat Cincinnati. You beat Kansas City, I mean. When you're down and your quarterback throws for 446 and your receiver, I have Chase on my fantasy team.
Oh, nice.
He had 67 points for me yesterday.
Yes, he did.
I got to give them props. That's one team that I just wouldn't believe. Now, last week during Who's In, Who's Out, I did take them. And I think I took them the week before as well.
You took them to win the division.
Right. But I will give them credit that I can now say that I believe in them way more than I did 2 weeks ago.
I got to say also, when you think about the AFC right now, it's a completely different environment than the NFC. Like the NFC is pretty much locked up. The AFC still has all these weird scenarios in play.
Yeah. Well, the AFC, I think of all the AFC, the other team I got to give some props to is Vegas. Most people said Vegas are packing it in. They're done.
Raiders.
That's an elimination game, right? To win it in, right?
Well, they still have to win one more.
No, I'm saying Vegas plays the Chargers Sunday night. The winner of that game is getting in, right?
That is correct. That's why it's on Sunday night.
Right. So Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh plays tonight. If they lose, they're done. If they win, they have like a 5% chance. I think Baltimore, they've lost 5 straight. Their season has just fallen apart. Colts have not clinched yet either. Now, if Vegas and the Colts tie, Vegas would knock them out. That's unbelievable.
How insane is that? And they're doing with the interim coach.
Yeah, and there was people a couple weeks ago, Vegas has mailed it in. They want the season to end. They're done with the coach. I mean, hey, give them a lot of credit. So I got to give them some credit here. Do I think they're going to win? I don't know. We'll talk more about that as the season goes on. So as the week goes on. So you got Vegas and the Chargers Sunday night. Who's Indy play? I'm imagining Jacksonville or Houston, right?
They play the Jags.
All right. They'll win that game. So they'll get to 10.
You would hope.
Jeez, if they don't. So what's the scenarios here? In the AFC, you got everybody's clinched except for Indy and the Chargers. Well, 6 and 7 are still up for grabs.
Correct. And then the Patriots and Bills are still fighting for the division.
It's funny. Miami is eliminated, but they're 10 and Baltimore's 11.
How weird is that?
Right? So Baltimore still has a slim shot. If Pittsburgh wins tonight, they still have a slim shot. But it's really going to come down to Indy against Jacksonville and the winner of the Chargers-Raider game.
Yeah, and don't forget, whoever wins is going to create some very interesting matchups because the 1 seed is the only team with the bye. So that leaves 2 through 7 all playing games.
Yeah. And then you got San Francisco, who's the 6, but they haven't clinched yet. Philadelphia is the 7, but they have clinched. But every other team is eliminated. It's only San Francisco and New Orleans. They are the only 2 teams that are still up for grabs. One of them will be the 6. The other one would be the 7. Because if Philly gets in, if New Orleans gets in, Philly will be the 6.
Correct.
Gotcha. It's going to be crazy. I mean, I don't know why they picked the Eagles game for Saturday night, but Sirianni said today that he was told ahead of time that they might be, they might be one of the teams. I figured just because it's Dallas, Philadelphia.
By the way, New Orleans plays Atlanta this Sunday.
New Orleans, Atlanta, San Fran plays the Rams. So New Orleans feels pretty good.
You would think. But it is in Atlanta, so.
Yeah. This whole thing with the Eagles' most likely opponent being Tampa Bay, I got to try to figure out why that is.
Well, if
I saw a 68% chance that they play Tampa, but they are not matched up right now.
No. Well, the idea is that if the Eagles move to 6 and the Bucks stay at 3, that's obviously one scenario.
Right. But I think Philly is most likely at 7. I think they lose to Dallas this week. Maybe not. I don't know. Dallas probably not playing anybody either.
Well, there's also a scenario where if the 49ers win, that means they beat the Rams. And if Tampa wins, the Bucks move up.
Gotcha. All right, when we come back, we're going to check in on the Sixers in the new year, 2022. What's new for the Sixers? Paul Hudrick inside the Sixers joins me right here on the Sports Bash. And then one thought every game, Casey Joyner and Jeff Kerr on the NFC playoffs. All that still to come here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN.
It's that time again. Time for fresh starts and resolutions. Even flinch when you That's Harry's special. Shipped directly to you with a 100% money-back guarantee. New customers can get a Harry starter set for just $3 at harrys.com with code TOWNSQUARE at checkout. Get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel with aloe, and travel cover, all for just $3. That's code TOWNSQUARE at checkout at harrys.com.
Get to Matt Blatt Kia during the Command the Season sales event and put 0 down. Pay 0 interest for 60 months or make no payments for 90 days. Stock and all. Bring us any trade, no matter the make, no matter the mileage, no matter the condition. So treat yourself this holiday season and drive away in a new Kia with 0 down and 0 interest for 60 months on every 2022 Kia Stinger, or make no payments until next year during the Command the Season sales event. It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia. Offers with Proof Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 for 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity finance with the new loan. Excludes taxes, title, license. Offers don't combine. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 1/3/22. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Tom's River.
If you are tired of searching the grocery store for meat you can trust, you need ButcherBox. They're a subscription service that delivers humanely sourced meat. You can stop combing the grocery aisles and start getting 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, humanely raised pork, and even wild-caught seafood delivered to your doorstep. With ButcherBox, you can select a box that has everything you want all in one place. For a limited time, ButcherBox is offering new members a great year's bundle before it's gone by going to 1-800-BUTCHER to sign up.
The annual Wildwood Fishing and Boating Expo is returning to the Wildwoods Convention Center on January 8th and 9th. 80 vendors will have all of your fishing and boating needs. Free seminars all expo long and a Yeti cooler giveaway sponsored by Cape Harbor Marine. Stop by and see Captain Dave Marciano from Wicked Tuna and pick up a little hard merch. Jump in January, be boating by June. Doors open at 9 Saturday and Sunday, January 8th and 9th. Admission is just $7, kids 12 and under free. Visit fishingexpowildwood.com.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 97.3ESPN.
All right, 4:45 on a Monday. It's the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Happy New Year, everybody. 2022 is here. The Sixers, they're back in action tonight. You can hear the game live on 97.3 ESPN. I feel like 2021 was not just an odd season and year for everybody. This season for the Sixers has been really odd. No Ben Simmons still. What is this Sixer team? Let's take a look at it. Paul Hudrick is back for Inside the Sixers as we turn the calendar to 2022, and he joins us right now. Sixers and the Rockets tonight. And you can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, Paul? Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year to you as well. Just over here living the dream, man. How are you?
This is the dream. I'm struggling right now. I said I was feeling all right, and then all of a sudden I said, I'm deteriorating in mid-show here. I am going downhill. I'm going to try to get to the finish line. I want to kind of get an overview. We did the state of the Sixers for Christmas Day. If I were to ask you currently as the calendar turns to 2022, Paul Hudrick, what is your state of the Sixers?
I would say that right now, and I've stood by this, I think they are no worse than the fourth best team as they're constructed with Ben Simmons not playing and no trade. They are at worst the fourth best team in the Eastern Conference. I think you could make an argument they're the third best team with clearly Brooklyn and Milwaukee, I think, are head and shoulders above everybody. Chicago right now is playing great basketball. They're second in the conference. The Sixers have beat them twice. Once at home and once on the road. So I feel confident that the Sixers are a better team, a flat out better team than the Chicago Bulls. So that really leaves the Heat to me as the only team that's kind of a debatable, I'm not positive one way or the other, whether they're better or not. And I would like to see a matchup between those two teams at full strength, which we have not gotten remotely to start the season. But I would say the state is that I think they are no worse than that. And I think because of that, they're not in panic mode. It's just turning in the new year. You still have another month until the trade deadline. And I think, as far as like the state of the Ben Simmons thing, we're still kind of in status quo. I think as long as they are hanging in there, it's going to make it more interesting to see what Daryl Morey does. Because if they hang in there, They have a really impressive win against the Nets. They've beaten the other best team in the conference, the Golden State Warriors. So to me, this is a team that when they are right, they are pretty darn good. So it makes it interesting for when they get to that trade deadline. What does Daryl Morey do? Because it might get to a point where he has to make a move because they're actually in this thing.
I wonder if you have an opinion on the whole Doc and Pompey and how that went. And if that says that Doc is getting frustrated, like, look, it is what it is, Keith. Like, I get it. His answer to Keith was a little pompous with, you never played. I thought he went overboard with that. Keith's question was totally fair, but I think Doc's answer is, look, dude, it's Tuesday night in December. I got this half-ass team playing. Some nights I don't know who's playing. What do you want from us, dude? Like, we don't like to hear the team actually admit what we're thinking. Like, it's Tuesday night in February. They don't care. You don't care. We just don't want to hear them say they don't care.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, to start off, I mean, it's two people I have a great deal of respect for when you're talking about Doc Rivers and Keith Pompey. I mean, Doc Rivers is a coach, Keith Pompey is a colleague and someone who's great at what he does and has been doing it for a long time. And I think, Mike, you're kind of right. Like, I think initially both guys it was a fair question. It was a fair response. And I think, yeah, like to Doc's point, it's a win. It doesn't matter what it looks like. And I think there's something here to this too. And listen, and I'm kind of a defender of it as well. When you look at a team like Toronto, you're like, well, they should just beat this team. It's Toronto. This should just be a win. The issue is there's that wounded animal theory where it's, you take them less, right off the bat, you take them less seriously, just naturally. You can't help that. And then the other thing is, you have a bunch of hungry players. These are guys that are fighting and scratching for their NBA lives and their careers. So they are so hungry and they are trying to prove themselves. And so they are scratching and clawing. It's really hard to match that when, like you said, Mike, for you, it's just a Tuesday night in December. For them, it is their livelihood. So it's really difficult to match that energy and match that intensity. That's not an excuse. It's just the reality of the human condition. But yeah, I think both of those guys would like to maybe have ended that kind of back and forth there because I think it did escalate to a bad place. But yeah, I think both guys, I think a fair question, fair answer by Doc initially.
To your point, though, they've beaten Brooklyn. They beat Golden State. In years past, when we complained about the Sixers and Brett Brown and they can't do this, they went to Golden State and won games. They beat the Lakers. They beat the Clippers. It was like they beat the best of the best. What more did you want them to do? Like winning a game against Toronto on Tuesday night in December, you're not going to go back to that game in May and like, you remember that game they played against Toronto that they only beat them by 2? That's why they struggled in this game tonight. Like there's no correlation. But my point, I guess, with the question is this Doc's way of saying, we need more players. We need more help. What do you want us to do? Like, we have a good team. We're just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even look at it like that. I more look at it as Doc's view of it as a coach. And I think it's a fair way to look at it is you're literally just playing for that night, and your goal is to win that night. So if you do it, you put it away, and then it's done. And you don't worry about the score. Like, surely you take things from it and you try to improve upon it. You try to get better. You see where you could have been better. You see what things you did well and you try to do them more. But I think in terms of like the win-loss thing, and for the record, Keith Pompey did ask him when they were losing those close games about their fight and all that. And Doc said, well, I don't care because we lost. So I think both guys are actually consistent in that Keith did ask when they were losing those close games shorthanded. And Doc said, well, I don't care because we lost. And I think Doc's response was the same. I don't care because we won. So, yeah, I think it's almost like a trade-off in a way, too. Like when they fought tooth and nail against the Bucks without Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris and all those guys and lost a close game. Well, okay, but you won this close game when you had your full cast of characters. So I think it's more Doc just looking at it as an 82-game season. You're going to win games you shouldn't win. You're going to lose games you shouldn't lose. And so when it's a win, you just take it and you move on.
Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers, and make sure you check out libertyballers.com. All of Paul's work at Paul Hudrick. Sixers tonight against the Houston Rockets. I want to get your take on last year. Joel Embiid was the runner-up for the MVP. Is he playing the same level, better, not as good? If people have been like, you know what, this team is just so inconsistent, the Eagles are better than I thought, and they're not fully invested in the Sixers like maybe they have been the last couple of years, What would you say Embiid's season is up to this point?
Since he got back from COVID, I think you could make an argument that he is playing at a higher level than he did last season for a couple of different reasons. One, I think defensively, I think it gets overlooked every night. Mike, I think you could make a legitimate argument that Joel Embiid is the best two-way basketball player in the NBA. Like, think about it. In your mind, like, you would probably, like, a guy like Kawhi would be on that list. Obviously, he's not going to play this season. Who else would you say is a better two-way player than Joel Embiid to impact the game on both ends the way he does? You'd be hard-pressed to find a really good answer that you'd say, yes, this guy absolutely better, hands down, better two-way player. So I think sometimes because he's so good offensively and because he's so important to the Sixers offensively, it just gets overlooked that he is a guy that really should be in consideration for defensive player of the year. He anchors what they do. My guy Jackson Frank at Liberty Ballers wrote an article today kind of looking for the commonalities in those two big wins, the one against the Warriors, the one against the Nets, and what the difference is, or why they were able to overcome. And defense is a big part of that. They're kind of middle of the pack overall this season, but when Joel Embiid plays, it's a tick higher. Like he is carrying them defensively, and then obviously Matisse Thybulle stepping his game up on the perimeter. But I think that's the big thing. And on top of his defense, I think his court awareness, he's turning the ball over less, and he has more assists, and that's throughout the entire season. His assist numbers up, career low in turnovers. I mean, I think those are the two biggest things where I look at it. I think he is actually playing at a higher level than he did last year when he was the MVP runner-up. Like, he is firmly, to me, if they can improve and continue to go on this path they've been on recently, he is in that MVP conversation.
30 seconds, Paul. One area they're really struggling without Simmons, rebounding. How do they fix that?
Get a player that can rebound like Ben Simmons.
They got to go outside the organization.
Yeah, I don't think there's a good answer. I mean, you have Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond, who are outstanding rebounders, and then beyond that, you just don't. You're small. I mean, you have Seth Curry and Tyrese Maxey playing together. They're small. Matisse is an okay rebounder, but he's not the tallest guy. Tobias is an okay rebounder, but other than that, I mean, you're a small team without Ben Simmons. So I think that's the deal. It's just personnel right now.
The calendar has flipped to 2022, which means Daryl Morey is now really on the clock. February 10th, that's the trade deadline. Paul Hudrick will be with us throughout the season. Sixers tonight against the Rockets, who are going to be shorthanded. Porter Jr. is out. Wood is out. And, of course, you can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Paul, good to have you back. Happy New Year, my man.
Same to you, Mike. Take care, man.
There's Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers. Check him out at libertyballers.com, at Paul Hudrick on Twitter. When we come back, one thought every game, Week 17. There's one more game tonight. We'll talk about that. The Eagles win against Washington. What's the best matchup for Philly? And something Mike McCarthy just said that Eagle fans are going to want to hear. I have that when we come back on the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. All right, final hour of the show. First show of 2022. One thought every game. Casey Joyner set to join me. A wild week 17. We saw teams get eliminated. We saw teams stamp their passport into the playoffs. Philadelphia was one of them. We'll break it all down. One thought every game, including what the game tonight means. Casey Joyner set to join me right now from The Athletic and the Philadelphia Inquirer. We wish him a happy new year for 2022. And we still have 1 week of football left. Normally, this would be it. We'd be talking about the playoff matchups and getting ready. But the intrigue continues as week 17 is almost in the books. We got Monday Night Football tonight. What's going on, Casey?
Not too much. I keep thinking back to Super Bowl 11 was held on January 9th, 1977. And we're going to be January 9th next week, and we're not even going to start the playoffs. It's incredible.
Well, yesterday, obviously, Philadelphia down 10-0. They come back. A lot of people were a little, concerned. 10-0. They're down at halftime. People keep looking at this defense and saying too lax, not enough pressure. But in the end, John Gannon made the adjustments again. They shut Washington out. But do they have a recipe that can win in the playoffs, or is this just a product of Washington's offense?
A bit of a product of where they're at, but also they don't have any breakaway ability really when Sanders isn't in the lineup. So that's breakaway running ability. But I think what I did like about this, you don't like seeing a team fall behind 10-0, but what I did like about this really was two things. One, this formula, grind it out, and we'll make sure that, fine, we're giving up stuff underneath, but we're not giving stuff up over the top, because that's the whole design of the defense. If you can do that on defense and you can grind it out on offense, and the Sanders is back for the playoffs and healthy enough, now you get the breakaway ability. You start adding those elements together, and great kicking from Elliott, too. Those are some clutch kicks he made. You add those elements together, that's a way you can beat some teams that are more talented than you. So I liked it as an extension of a formula for what the Eagles can do in the postseason.
Yeah, and then obviously, you look at the fact that their offense wasn't great yesterday, and you kind of hinted at it, but they did what they had to do. I want to kind of to zone in. They didn't have the same running game. So Jalen Hurts, what did he do yesterday that was impressive?
It's the second week in a row that I've been impressed with his vertical passing. 8 out of 12 for 139 yards. That's 11.6 yards per attempt. That's per True Media's measurements. Those are good numbers. Those aren't great numbers and aren't as good as they were last week. But if you can complete 2 out of 3 vertical passes, you're doing pretty well. And that's what you like to see, is his ability to be able to do that. And you also, I like the idea that also that early in the year, remember in the Atlanta game, we start off the year, it was, hey, can we get a high percentage passing game going? And they did that for a time. They've had trouble at that times this year, but Hurts was 9 of 14 on short passes. That's passes traveling 10 or fewer yards downfield for 5.4 yards per attempt. It's not great. You'd like to see a little more than that, but if you're completing at that percentage and you're getting that kind of yards per attempt, all you need is slight improvements on that, and you've got a really good short passing game that can augment the running game. So I thought, again, it added another element to what the Eagles can do.
Yeah, I know a lot of people would take a look at the fact that they didn't run the ball as well as normal. Was that, I wonder, they've played 3 games within like 15 days here. I felt that their offensive line didn't have the same push yesterday.
I got to wonder if, because they had so many people on the team testing for COVID, I can wonder if maybe they were a little slowed by that before getting a positive test. The one thing I noticed schematically, though, they were doing a lot more basic running. I've been talking about it in my articles in the Inquirer over the past few weeks, that the Eagles have had a lot of variation in their ground game, a lot of different things they're doing. Yesterday, it was a lot of basic inside zone, not too many power plays, not too many of the pulling guards. It was just a lot of we'll go right up there inside zone, and they're not doing many zone reads, or not as many. And I think that might be in part because they don't want Hurts to get hit more than he needs to, maybe have him pressure the play out. So I think that might have been an intentional scaling back of what they do schematically. And when you do that and you don't have the breakaway ability in the backfield without Sanders, I think it does limit your ground game. But they still rushed for 118, so it still was a solid day on the ground.
And obviously, they didn't have Sanders. I think he's a big difference maker in terms of the big play. They didn't use Jordan Howard all that much. It was more of a Boston Scott thing. And we still don't see Hurts he had that one big run, but the last 3 weeks has really kind of phased himself out of the run game.
And he had the one big run and very wisely slid down before he got hit. So I think he's been doing that all year. I think he's coached up to do that, make sure he doesn't take any more punishment than he has to. But he's obviously got enough mobility, because there are a few times where he's scrambled out of sacks. And so he's obviously He's healthy enough to do it. I just think they're trying to make sure that he doesn't run the ball as frequently, which makes me think that I don't want to use the term load management, but for him to say, hey, we're not going to utilize you quite as often. And you don't want to think that they're thinking ahead to the playoffs, but I'd like to think that maybe they were saying, hey, we think we've got a really good shot here. Let's make sure we save your wear and tear and hits. Let's make sure we save that for a postseason play, see if we can win it this way. Having said that, when you're in the situation they're in and they still barely won the game and they almost give up a comeback run, I kind of would have liked to see them use a little more approaches playmaking ability if he's available to do it.
Now, obviously, this team won 4 games last year. They made the change at quarterback. They have $60+ million in dead money. They have 3 first-round picks. Where do you kind of see this organization making the playoffs moving forward?
Do you want to be this kind of team? I think that's the biggest key for them is, do they want to be, is this the offense they want to run? Is this who they're going to be? We saw Kelsey's speech over the weekend, Jason Kelsey's speech about how, hey, we can beat anybody and because with who we are and knowing that, we got an offensive line that can dominate the game. If they stick with that formula, now you need to make sure that you build in some backups behind it. Because right now, obviously, if Hurts is hurt, you don't have anybody who can run that offense quite the same way. And you'd like to think that you could do what, Baltimore's doing with the people they have behind Jackson to be able to get some of the similar offensive production, similar offensive systems behind them. So I want to see if the Eagles want to do that, or if they are still determined to say, hey, this worked good for 1 year, but do we want to be a pass heavier team? Because if they are, then they have to change boats. And I wonder if they're going to do that. I think that they should stick with this, but I think organizationally they may decide we want to have a bigger passing game and go in a different direction.
It's a good point. I mean, you saw a team like Denver years ago with Tebow. They won 10 games. They won a playoff game and decided we can't just win like this long term. It was nice that we won this playoff game, but they moved on from Tebow.
They did, but Baltimore, I keep coming back to them. In Baltimore, they've had some trouble this year, but they've been tons of injuries and tons of COVID issues. I write an injury report every week for Football Diehards, and the Ravens are almost always one of the longest ones to write in there because the report is just so long. That you can absorb injuries and you can do a lot of different things if you're running this type of offense, if you have it built in there. This offense can win. This type of offense can win. You don't have to have the huge passing game. You want to have more passing game ability, but fine, give Hurts better receivers. He's done a solid job passing with what he has. He doesn't have an elite receiving core. Give him if you gave him what Burrow has in Cincinnati, you wouldn't have what Burrow is doing in Cincinnati, but you do a much better passing game. Give him some better passing weapons and see if you can get his passing ability to a certain perspective. Because remember, Lamar Jackson in that run-heavy offense threw for 36 touchdowns a couple years ago. So you can be throwing for big plays. You just have to build it in.
Yeah, that would be interesting. There's a lot of discussion because they have the 3 picks. Do you look at a quarterback in this draft? Do you go with Hurts again? I mean, if the season ended, they didn't make the playoffs, and you had to make a judgment right now, would you say he's back or you would look for something new?
Whether I would do or whether I think they would do, I think if they didn't make the playoffs and this season didn't have a good inning like this, I think they would say, hey, I don't know that Hurts is our guy. I think they organizationally believe very much in the passing game. Having said that, they're leading the league in rushing, so maybe this year will be a watershed change for them to say, hey, we can win with this sort of approach because they've just been so analytically heavy on the pass side that maybe they think can go in another direction. I'll point out, though, Andy Reid, when he was in Philadelphia, threw a ton. If you look at what he's done in Kansas City, he's winning running the ball. I mean, he's got Mahomes, he's got Kelsey, he's got Hill, so he's got great weapons, but he's still doing a lot more running than you would think that Andy Reid would be doing. So maybe the Eagles will be in the same mindset that, hey, we need to adjust and adapt. We can't be so pass heavy. We do need to be able to run the football. Maybe we can meet that in the middle. They've got a good base right now. There's no need to change it, in my opinion, though.
All right, one thought every game. Week 17, what did it mean? Buffalo gets the win ugly against Atlanta. They end up pulling away 29-15, but that really kind of solidifies them as the East champion. I mean, there's a slim chance, but they needed that one.
They did, and again, Buffalo keeps doing that when they have to come up with a win against an opponent. When they outmatch an opponent, they tend to do very well against them. That Jacksonville game notwithstanding, but I mean, Matt Ryan led that game with 197 yards passing. I don't think Buffalo wants to be in that sort of a contest where Matt Ryan is outpassing Josh Allen. So I think that this is an anomaly for them, but good for them to play up to their talent level.
One thought every game. Let's go to New York and Chicago. Obviously, New York. I mean, Joe Judge afterwards, they got to really reconsider if they're going to bring him back. They were horrible yesterday against a Chicago team that had been among one of the most embarrassing teams all year.
They had been, but Chicago has been their offense is playing a lot better, and they haven't lost their composure. Chicago has it, and I think the Giants finally lost their composure. I think that the season caught up to Judge in a way that it doesn't speak well when your coach seems to fall apart like that. If he falls apart like that, the players aren't going to believe in him, and once the players don't believe in the coach, you almost have to make a change.
One thought every game. Let's go to Kansas City, Cincinnati. This is a big one because Kansas City had this, and then Cincinnati. I mean, huge game for Chase, huge game for Burrow. They win the North. So I guess we got to start thinking about Cincinnati a little differently.
Yeah, I gotta mention that fantasy managers had to love anybody who's fortunate to have Burrow and Chase in their lineup as I kind of had them one team, so I had that game won by 4:00. But I didn't think they could do it back to back like that. One reason to point that out is that Cincinnati did very well against Baltimore the week before, and Baltimore had all kinds of backups all over the place. And in this game, they still did the same thing against the Chiefs secondary that's playing a whole lot better. So I think that says something for Cincinnati. If they can do it against the Chiefs, they can do this against just about anybody.
Well, and the fact that the Chiefs needed the game, and they lost that game, that moves Tennessee into the number 1 spot. So that wasn't a game that Kansas City wasn't focused on winning. They needed to win that game. That's why I thought it was pretty impressive. One thought every game. Go ahead.
One more point on that. Kansas City hates getting into shootouts. Another shootout that they lose. That's why they want to be in low-scoring games, because they don't do well in shootouts.
34-31. Miami, I think they ran out of gas. Tennessee blasts them 34-3.
They did. And Miami have been winning against these terrible foes. They finally get up against a good team, a very good team. Tennessee's not the same without Henry, who they might get back for the playoffs. But this shows you that Miami, it was more who they were playing and how good they are. And that's, they still have a ways to go. But give Tennessee credit for getting that kind of a win against a solid opponent, because they've been playing bad of late.
One thought every game. Let's go to what was a really big one in the playoff chase. Vegas beats Indianapolis. And now Vegas win, and they are in Indianapolis. They still have a shot here, but man, that game at home, they lose that game to a Vegas team that many people thought had mailed it in.
They did, and Vegas has shown the last couple of weeks that they are still playing very hard. They still have their heads in the game. Never mind what happened to their receiver or their cornerback today, getting arrested for DUI. But the thing about Indianapolis is they had been getting over their injuries. They had more injuries in their offensive line going into that game yesterday. If you give them a healthy offensive line, all across the board, they can dominate any game. But finally, that started to catch up with them, and I don't think if it keeps catching up them with the playoffs, I think they'll be one and done.
One thought every game. New England, they get it done all over Jacksonville, 50-10. I mean, obviously Jacksonville, when they made the coaching change, we thought, all right, maybe they would play hard for the new coach to show that Meyer, but that hasn't happened. They've been embarrassed.
Funny thing is, I think they are playing harder. They're just they're that bad. I mean, I New England was favored by, I think, what was it, 16 points in that game, 16.5. The spread was huge, and I thought they'd cover. But I mean, they beat them by 40, and New England or Jacksonville's never even close to being in that contest. So that says something for New England too. They're still as dangerous as people thought they were, because when you can stomp a foe like this, it says you're very good.
Yeah, and they had been kind of a little questionable the last couple of weeks. Tampa struggles on the road against the Jets. Tampa's got a lot of issues the last couple of weeks.
They do. The Brown issue, obviously, Godwin being out, Evans being hurt. Their secondary's been. They're getting people back, but they're still kind of banged up. I mean, it's a lot of different issues for them, and they don't have the dominant defense that they did last year, so they're having to rely a lot more on the offense than they'd like to, and that's a bad form of heading into the playoffs when their offense is playing when it has as many issues as it does. Because when you can give up 24 to the Jets, it's not a good sign if you're going to be heading up against, say, the Packers in a few weeks.
All right, one thought every game. Rams beat Baltimore. I mean, they needed to really scratch and claw. Stafford's been very careless with the ball, though.
He has another pick six, and that's just who he is. He takes too many chances. He gives them some big playability, but they gotta like the OBJ stepped up and scored a touchdown. Cooper Kupp is still playing well, but he's kind of wearing down at the end of the year. In fact, that's what I think about the Rams as a whole, is that they're not peaking at the time that they would like to be. They're trending in a kind of downward spiral. So it's bad for them. For Baltimore, you still got to give them credit. They have been totally banged up and in a bad way, and they still fought the Rams and almost beat them. It says something for John Harbaug's coaching.
One thought every game. Let's go to Denver and the Chargers. Obviously, that one had some playoff implications. The Chargers need it. They bounce back.
They did, and Denver is with Bridgewater. They could win with a certain formula. The way the formula that the Eagles won with yesterday, that's the formula that Denver can win with when things go well. With Bridgewater's out, they can't do it with Locke. I mean, give the Chargers credit though. Scored 34 points, and Eckler only rushes for 58 yards, and he's the leading rusher in the game. So the Chargers finding different ways to win, and finally having their defense step up, because I still thought that Denver would score at least 20 against the Chargers' bad defense, but the Chargers play a lot better.
All right, one thought every game. Houston, they fought hard. Looks like Culley could come back. San Francisco, they needed it. They got it, but it was ugly.
It was, and Houston, they've been that way all year, that they're not, they're a very well-coached team in the sense their players try and play as hard as they can, and that speaks very well for the coach when you can do that. That's why you want to bring him back for the year. San Francisco, though, a formula team. You put Lance out there, he's not the same as Garoppolo. When Garoppolo's playing well, he's more hit or miss, but Mitchell 119 yards and Ayuk 94 yards. I mean, San Francisco got a number of different weapons. If they get to healthy and hit and get their stride offensively, they're a dangerous team in the playoffs.
All right, one thought every game. Arizona, Dallas. There's a lot to unpack on this one here. It really comes down to me, Casey. McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy's just not good enough. They have the better roster. He just holds them back.
He does, and he did it in Green Bay, and Rodgers bailed him out. But Arizona's not been playing well. They didn't play well yesterday, and mind you, when they're talking about the officiating, hey guys, you got to be able to beat the officials too. I mean, it's fine to get some bad calls and things, but when you've got, I cover that game for the Athletics live blog. I'll be doing that tonight for their live blog as well. But when you can have the running game get dominated, look, Chase Edmonds led the game yesterday, 53 rushing yards, and what was it? Elliott and Pollard had 25 yards on 12 carries, I believe it was. When your running game is that bad, that doesn't speak well for Dallas, so they've got problems.
Yep, they got big problems there, and they're going to be the 4 seed likely now, which means they're going to have to play pretty much on the road after the wild card round. Not ideal for them. Carolina and New Orleans. Carolina, their season has just gone off the rails. New Orleans, they are still alive.
Sean Payton is one of the best coaches in the league. He can make chicken salad out of, he can do that. I mean, coaches will tell you that you can't always, a lot of coaches can't find ways to do that, and he does. He gets the best out of his players. And I mean, Carolina, they're trending so far down that Matt Rule, I mean, they're talking about maybe the owner, it's reported the owner is not very happy with him, might want to make a change. And again, in these games, you got to play for pride. And if your team isn't playing for pride, it doesn't speak well for you as a coach.
One thought every game. Let's go to Detroit and Seattle, really playing out the string there for both those teams. Detroit, who has fought hard all year, they kind of ran out of gas, it looks like, in this one.
They did, and the thing is, they got down in that game, though, and they're still trying to fight. I mean, I keep hoping that Dan Campbell gets a good roster of players because he's such a fun coach to watch. And you see, man, if this guy could actually get some good players, they could do something. Because Detroit's secondary finally got banged up again, and they were as bad as they were earlier in the year. But I got to give him massive credit. But also, hey, give Pete Carroll credit. I mean, there's every reason for them to throw in the towel, and they didn't and kept their foot on the gas. It speaks well for Carroll.
All right, one thought every game. Of course, the game on Sunday night, Cousins doesn't get to play because of the COVID situation, and they just didn't have anything offensively.
They didn't, and it's Minnesota's defense again, though, 37 points giving up. I mean, mind you, the offense put them in some bad situations, but that's the thing that's most troubling about that. It's a Mike Zimmer team, and the defense now for 2 straight years has not played to anywhere near what you'd expect a Mike Zimmer defense to play. So if he loses his job, I think it'll be as much for that as it is for anything else.
All right, one thought every game. Let's look at the game tonight. Monday night, it's got some playoff implications for Pittsburgh. Cleveland is done. Pittsburgh's got a slim shot here. So one thought on this game.
Well, 2 things are going to stand out. I think Mark Kabolia, the Athletics Pittsburgh beat reporter, he said that he's never seen a fan base as fired up as the fans are tonight. I think the Steelers will play at a fever pitch. That's really good. And I got to point out, Snoop Dogg is going to be on the Manning cast in the 3rd quarter, so I'm absolutely going to be glued to the TV for that.
Oh, they've got a great lineup tonight. Who's it? Aaron Rodgers in the 4th quarter, Snoop Dogg in the 3rd. I think Roger Goodell's in the 2nd, right?
Roger Goodell's in the 2nd, Bill Cowher in the 1st. You couldn't ask for a better lineup.
Right. They really went all out for this one here for the Manning cast tonight. So Pittsburgh has a shot to get in the playoffs. Cleveland's eliminated. Cincinnati has won the North. Baltimore has a slim shot. But obviously, the playoffs are starting to take shape. Now, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Casey will be back on Friday, by the way, with one thought on every game this weekend. If you're Philadelphia, what's the best matchup for you? The Rams, Tampa Bay. I don't think they have. Well, you can't play Green Bay because they have a bye. Rams, Tampa Bay, Dallas. I guess Arizona would be the other one.
I would probably lean initially towards Arizona. It's funny you mention that because I'm going to be covering my article for the Inquirer this week. So I haven't yet done all the research to know which team I think is going to be the best. My gut instinct is it's probably going to be Arizona just because of the way they've been struggling. And but I will be covering that for an article I believe they'll be posted on Wednesday this week.
Now Arizona would need to win the division, so there's some. They're the least likely. I think Tampa Bay is the most likely foe for Philly. So Tampa and the Rams. That one's tricky because no one wishes to play Brady, but you also, I feel like the Rams have a better roster right now with all the injuries, but I'd rather play Stafford than Brady.
I probably would too, especially with the way that the Eagles have been getting turnovers and the way their defense has been playing and the way that he's making mistakes. I don't think Brady's going to make those same mistakes. And the Rams, as good as they are on defense, if the Bucks play to their talent level, their run defense is scary, and you really don't want to face them. But the Rams, you can do things to the Rams to move them around, and you can kind of put it this way: if you wanted to say which team in defense can the offense punch in the mouth, I would think you're more likely to be able to do that against the Rams than you are against the Bucks.
All right, Casey's back on Friday. One Thought every Week 18 game, and that, of course, is right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Casey Joyner at The Athletic. You can check him out over there at the Philadelphia Inquirer and on Twitter at KC Joyner TFS. For more of Casey's work. All right, pal, we'll talk to you Friday. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Casey Joyner with One Thought on every game here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. 3:23 or 5:23. If it was 3:23, I wouldn't make it. I can tell you that much. I will do my best to try to get to 6 o'clock. Josh, you've got game night coming up tonight. What will you be discussing on the game night tonight?
Well, obviously, of course, the Eagles win over Washington is a big topic today. But I also want to talk about the NFL overall because, man, the way things are playing out, Mike, this might be the most unpredictable NFL playoff we've ever seen.
Well, and then you add in the extra team making the playoffs, it really has added. And because there's not really a clear-cut favorite, I think it does add some intrigue to that 7 seed this year. If it was like a year where it's definitively, hey, like even Kansas City, I'm not like, wow, like they've played well, but they don't feel the same as they have the last couple of years.
No, they haven't. And part of it is because of the fact that at the end of the day, I feel like the AFC is catching up to them. You know what I mean? I feel like the AFC is looking around like, hey, man, you know what? We can beat these guys now. Look at the Bengals. Look at some of these other teams. I mean, they think they can beat them now. Kansas City is not the juggernaut they used to be.
All right. By the way, I just took my temperature live on the air. If you were watching the video, not good, Josh. My temperature is the same all the time.
Yes, it is.
97.3, 97.4, 5, somewhere in that range. I'm up to 99 right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, not good, right?
I guess it's a good thing I'm here.
I got Jeff Kerr on the other side. Hopefully he carries me to the end of the day here. Sports Bash Live. Hey, I found a way to get here today. I did the best I could. I might not make it to the end. I'll do my best for all the people out there here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
robust sommelier with notes of procurement manager. Indeed can help her hire great people fast. Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Trust the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your car. Like 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil, just $31.95. Plus, get a $10 O'Reilly gift card with your purchase. Extend the life of your vehicle and improve performance with a synthetic oil change. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Game time. Football season is in full swing, and you can catch all the NFL action at the FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. It's time to get in on all the games you love. Experience sports betting done right with live streaming games, food and beverage, self-service betting kiosks, and more. Get your game face on and score big this weekend when you bet at FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's, off the boardwalk, Atlantic City. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Stomach.
Don't worry, I've got you covered.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, diarrhea.
What's that?
It's Pepto-Bismol chews.
Pepto-Bismol's in a chew?
Yeah, they taste great and provide fast relief. And you can always have Pepto-Bismol handy.
Ooh, let me try it.
Try Pepto-Bismol chews for fast relief.
Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Everyone loves shopping online. Well, I'm going to see what I tell my golf buddies from the club. I'm searching for coupon codes. Download Capital One Shopping to your computer. Capital One Shopping instantly searches for available coupon codes and automatically applies them at checkout. Plus, it's free, and you don't even need a Capital One card to use it. That's like hitting a hole-in-one without even trying. Capital One Shopping. It's kind of genius. What's in your wallet?
Savings and available coupons vary.
Before Bamboo HR, I feel like crying just thinking about it.
We were still handling everything via paper, and we literally had paper staff. It was all in spreadsheets and like folders. From the moment I started using it, I felt calmer.
As soon as we started using the Bamboo onboarding checklist, I mean, it was extremely easy.
Headcount, turnover, years of service. Like there's just so many different ports that I use at different points in time. I'm like totally set free to focus on the people, to focus on development, to focus on team dynamics.
It's freeing me up to do more of the stuff that actually matters in HR, which is interacting with people, learning from them, and then building stuff for them.
Everything is in this one place. I can't even imagine what it would be like without Bamboo HR.
We're Bamboo HR, and we'd love to set you free to do great work. Come try our award-winning all-in-one HR software for free with no strings attached. Visit bamboohr.com/hats for this free trial offer. That's bamboohr.com/hats.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 97.3ESPN.com.
5:29 Sports Bash Monday night. Eagles heading to the playoffs. We'll have the game for you here this Saturday night, 97.3 ESPN. That's Week 18, playoff game. I don't know when that's going to be. Now, they try to get Nick Sirianni to kind of spill the beans on that. Sirianni said he was aware there was a chance they could have played on Saturday night, which I tweeted out yesterday, and then people bombarded me and said that there's no way they would pick that game. It's not going to mean anything if the Eagles are in the playoffs. I said, look, it's Philly, Dallas. I mean, they just want ratings. They don't, there's not a lot. There wasn't a lot of games to pick from. That was the problem. There was only really the one game, and Sunday Night Football got that game.
Well, Mike, usually remember historically also, don't forget that a lot of times the teams that are picked for certain of these games are because they are in contention for certain seeds in certain situations. The NFL doesn't want people like, hey, you don't have to play anybody. We'll just sit everybody.
Well, Philly today addressed it by saying, we don't know what we're doing. Dallas today has come out and said they're going to play their guys on Saturday night. Mike McCarthy, thank God he's the coach of that team. Boy, is he an idiot. Dallas fans, I'm not for those of you who think I hate Dallas, I could care less about Dallas. The team that's the highest on my list of teams is the Giants.
Yeah, you've been very consistent on that.
Dallas, I don't care about. I'm not one of those people that are like, because Dallas and Philly, everybody says, no. To me, Dallas is not. It's Dallas and New York is my biggest one. So I love watching the Giants be miserable. It's to me, it's the greatest thing. The fact that the Giants have been the biggest laughing stock in football. Dallas, to me, I feel like I'm pretty objective about Dallas. I constantly put them in my fine five. The problem is they keep screwing me, and I go back to them because I think they have the best roster. And in the end, the same thing I maintain about Dallas is they don't have the coach, and that's their problem. Let's bring Jeff Kerr in and see what he thinks about it right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff, right before you came in, I talked about Philly and Dallas. It looks like Philly is unsure if they're going to play their guys. Dallas seemingly is going to play their guys on Sunday, and I say, God bless Mike McCarthy. To me, he's the difference. He holds them back. That's their problem. Mike McCarthy is the Cowboys' problem.
Oh, I agree. And, I hear all about the talent on the Dallas Cowboys, and I agree with that. I think they are one of the more talented rosters in the NFL. But I feel like this is just a pattern of 25, 26 years with the Dallas Cowboys franchise. They can have all the talent in the world. But Dak Prescott is starting to prove, to me at least, that he's not an elite quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. He's a front-running quarterback, meaning he really doesn't bring them back from any deficit. I mean, yeah, they could say he came back yesterday, but did he really? I mean, he didn't get the ball back the last 4 minutes. And it just seems like anytime this team plays a good football team, they don't play well, Mike. They don't play well at the beginning of games. They lose them. They're a very good football team. I think they're one of the top 5 teams in the NFC.
Best roster.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, though, but you're right. Mike McCarthy really did them in yesterday. He really
Jeff,
did.
And the Dallas fans, God bless them. They come up with it. The refs are against them. Their players, the refs are. What's that?
It's not just the fans. It's the players. The
players. Here's what I'll say. Yeah, the refs are against every team. They're bad. I say this all the time. I don't use the refs as an excuse because I factor into the game that they are going to be bad. And what they're bad on, like that fumble call, that is a split-second call. I can't blame them for that. Like in real time, I couldn't tell if it's a fumble or not. So they make a call. They got it wrong. What the Dallas fans should be mad at is that their idiotic coach called timeout because he got completely undressed by Kingsbury in the third quarter. He sent out his field goal block unit, and Kingsbury said, then I'll send my offense out there. It forced him to call a timeout. And that's why they couldn't challenge that play, because their coach is a complete boob.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? Here, if anybody wants to question the validity of Mike McCarthy, just look at Matt LaFleur is 39-9 in 3 years with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is about to win back-to-back MVPs. When the last 2 years under Mike McCarthy, the Packers had losing records. It actually is kind of incredible Mike McCarthy has the Super Bowl. And you got to keep this in mind, Mike. They were a 6 seed when they did that. They just rode the hot hand of Aaron Rodgers throughout the whole way. And if Michael Vick doesn't throw a pick to Riley Cooper in the end zone, or if I forget Deshaun Jackson's college roommate, I forget who it was at the time, doesn't have that shoestring tackle on him, Aaron Rodgers may not have a Super Bowl right now. It's crazy.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because Aaron Rodgers, they clearly had the best player and teams. But to me, it really accentuates how coaching matters in the NFL. Your coach can cost you. McCarthy has one job. He doesn't call plays. He's not a coordinator. He's not the defensive coordinator. He's not the offensive coordinator. He has one job: to manage the game.
Yep.
And he's got to be one of the worst. He has cost them multiple times. So the Cowboy fans shouldn't be mad at people like me or the referees. They should be mad that their owner can't figure out how to find a competent coach. He held on to Garrett like an imbecile for years, and it ruined multiple opportunities for them to possibly make runs to the Super Bowl. And now they hired this jackass. They reap what they sow.
So here's one for you, Mike. Look at the history of the Dallas Cowboys head coaches since the whole Jimmy Johnson fiasco. Barry Switzer was a puppet. He wasn't a good coach. He won with Johnson's team. They went downhill. Chan Gailey was terrible. Dave Campa was a joke. That was just a long-time special teams coordinator, and Jerry Jones felt, we have the talent. We can reward him. 3-5-11 seasons. then he hires Bill Parcells, a guy who actually can tell the owner what to do, and Jerry Jones didn't like that, so he was shown the door. I think they would have won a Super Bowl with Parcells and Tony Romo, but they hired another boob, Wade Phillips, who didn't deserve to have a job. He lost it. Jason Garrett. It's a calamity of errors in Dallas. That's why I never worry about this franchise. I can hear it all the time from our Cowboys writer, Patrick Walker, till he's blue in the face. Guess what? The Dallas Cowboys are not winning the Super Bowl this year. They can't beat anybody that matches their talent level. I don't know why they can't, but it's been like this for 26 years now. The Arizona Cardinals had the same amount of talent on that field as the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys came up short, period. I got into arguments with them on Twitter yesterday. I don't care.
What I appreciate, I love the fact that their fans are so blind that they are unwilling to call out the issues and they blame the refs. That, to me, is the best part about it. They go on with the lowest common denominator. The refs hate us. It's the refs' fault. That, to me, is the greatest because the owner never sees the real problem, that he hired a imbecile head coach. So I love it. All right, next topic. Eagles win yesterday. They're going to the playoffs. I would imagine they're not going to play their guys Saturday night. Dallas is saying they're going to play their guys. Does Philadelphia?
I say, well, you got to play some guys, obviously, because you only have a 53-man roster. I mean, so I say yes and no. I think some guys will play. Before Jason Kelce got on the reserve COVID-19 list, I thought he'd get like a ceremonial start, like a snap or, a series, and then he's out. I feel like it's going to be like an Andy Reid situation where these guys play like a series or two, and that's about it. But I fully expect the Dallas Cowboys to come in here and just kind of run up the score on the Eagles, just like they run up the score on any team that either A, doesn't have a pulse, or B, doesn't try, for whatever reason, because they got to prove how good they are against, So, yeah, I expect Dallas to play them. I mean, Mike McCarthy thinks otherwise, other than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott says he wants to play. I think that's a mistake. I don't see any incentive for the Eagles to play. I mean, what's the difference if you get the 6th seed or the 7th seed at this point?
I'll ask you, what's the difference? Would you rather play the Rams or Tampa Bay?
Well, here's the other thing, too. The Eagles play on Saturday night. We all know who the Eagles are going to play. I mean, personally, I think I'd rather play the Rams just because I think Sean McVay is another guy. I think he's a little overrated as a head coach. Matthew Stafford's not playing that well, and the Rams got a ton of talent. I mean, if it wasn't for Odell Beckham, this team would be on the free fall right now. It's crazy to think that way. But I think I'd rather play the Rams and the Buccaneers. And the only reason I don't want to play the Buccaneers is because Tom Brady just doesn't seem to lose, period.
The Eagles are going to the playoffs. This was deemed a transition year. They were going to learn about Hurts. They've got the 3 picks. They have the second most dead money in all of football. What is the big picture of the Eagles making the playoffs and where their organization currently sits from where they were in August?
Well, I think Eagles have a bit of an answer at quarterback right now in Jalen Hurts. I think that really helps. I think you build a team around Jalen Hurts, and you're going to have cap space. You're going to have 3 first-round picks. You know your weaknesses, linebacker, wide receiver. You got depth on the offensive line. I think you need more depth at defensive end. I think they could address it. I think if the Eagles get better personnel on defense, if they can get another wide receiver, they can be 11-4, 11-5 at this time next year. We already know this team's a 9-win team. We already know that this team can run the ball off pretty much anybody. I mean, what I've liked the last 2 weeks, Mike, is they haven't run for 200 yards. They haven't even run for 150 yards, and they were finding ways to win the football game. Why? Because their quarterback has taken the next step. I really like the direction this franchise is going. It feels like the 95 Eagles a bit, Mike. You saw the building blocks. The only difference is Jalen Hurts is much better than Rodney Peete, But the Eagles, they got that number 1 wide receiver in the offseason. They added a couple tight ends. They added, some better pieces of the offensive line still stunk. But this team isn't that far away, Mike. They're not that far away from the top 5 teams in this conference.
I agree that they're moving in the right direction. I think the league is so in flux right now. Where Green Bay, we don't know how long Green Bay, what's their shelf life? Is Aaron Rodgers there next year? Because if he's gone, they take a big step back. Number 2 seed Rams, they've got no draft picks. I mean, they got nothing. They're going to literally have this group of guys.
They're win now.
Exactly. So they're not going to keep improving. They're good now, but they don't keep improving. Tampa Bay, as soon as Brady's done, that organization is going to bottom back out. They're going to have to find a quarterback. Dallas needs to win now because, yes, they're young with Parsons and Diggs and CeeDee Lamb. Their problem is the offensive line's getting older. The quarterback seems to be, I like Dak Prescott,
He's
but
very good. I tell people all the time, I think he's a very good quarterback, but he ain't Joe Burrow, Mike. I'll just say that.
Exactly. So
not
I'm no
in that
Dak. I'm no Dak hater. But to me, they need to capitalize on the fact that their division is way down right now. Boom. Arizona. Okay. Arizona's got a good quarterback, but Hopkins is I feel like Hopkins is going to turn into a Julio Jones, where he's the best, and then all of a sudden he's just Their defense is just I don't know, man. I think that the NFC is about to become very wide open.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll add on the Arizona here. I actually like what Arizona's been doing because it seems like Steve Keim just doesn't miss on free agent signings or recent draft picks. Like Isaiah Simmons is turning into a really good ball player for them. It took him a while. It'll probably be the same way with David Collins, but you're right. The receiving core is much older, but if they could sign Christian Kirk, that'd be great. But that's a guy I want to see in Midnight Green next year. I think Christian Kirk would be great signing for them. But I digress. The James Conner signing was really good. Chase Edmonds is going to be a free agent. But again, I think they'll bring him back. As long as they have – and look, everybody likes to go on Cliff Kingsbury, but I think Cliff Kingsbury is just as responsible for them going from a 2-win team to an 11-win team, what they are now. So I'm looking at it as Arizona's a team on the rise, but you're right. These other teams are win now. And you got teams like the Eagles, teams like the 49ers, even teams like the Saints who can honestly say to themselves, you know what, we're a good team. We were 5-2 and our starting quarterback tore his ACL. So,
right.
Yeah, well, but you're right. This conference is getting wide open.
It really is. I looked at that today and I'm thinking it's a very transitional year in general. We talk about the Eagles being in transition, but it's a transitional year for the NFC. You got a lot of older quarterbacks. Situations might change. Brady, Rodgers, we shall see. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. On the ASC side, I got to give props to the Bengals. I wasn't a believer in them, but them winning that game against Kansas City, do we take them serious now?
You got to. Look, no one's been able to do anything against Kansas City defense until Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. If you think, and they've been doing this to everybody all year. And I said this when Joe Burrow got picked. I wasn't sure if he was going to be the best quarterback in that draft class. I had high hopes for all three of them, but I'm like, man, Joe Burrow could be a match made in heaven for them because he had the arm talent. And everybody liked to say, well, he had Jamar Chase and he had Justin Jefferson. Well, guess what? He was able to tell the Bengals, go get Jamar Chase. Trust me.
Yeah.
Bengals didn't care. They didn't care if they don't have an offensive line. They improved their defense with guys like Logan Wilson and Sam Hubbard. And, they got Trey Hendrickson on there. That defense is really good. But their weapons are phenomenal. Joe Mixon's a stud running back. Tyler Boyd is close to 1,000 yards. T. Higgins is a stud. The Bengals have been hitting on all these draft picks, seeing the result. And the AFC North is another division. It might be the Bengals for a long time.
Jeff, I blasted them on draft night. I thought they should have taken Sewell. I said, look, and it wasn't that I thought Chase was going to stink. It was they got T. Higgins. They had weapons at wide receiver. Who's the other guy that I'm forgetting about?
Tyler Boyd,
Higgins. They had two wide receivers. That kid's a difference maker. All right. They took the difference maker. God bless them. If they would have had Penei Sewell, that's their problem still. Their offensive line stinks. But now they can zone in. They're a playoff team, and they can zone in on fixing the offensive line. So bravo to those guys. The last thing I have on my agenda.
You know what? I want to add one more point about the bank. This tells me, and I tell this all the time, I defended the Chase pick, even though I thought they should have got Sewell too. Just because you have talent at wide receiver doesn't mean you can't get more talent, a.k.a. I'm talking about you, Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, I'll tell you this, and Mosher and I had this conversation during Football at 4. Roseman gets riled all the time because he missed on Jefferson and, of course, the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. But I will say this, Justin Jefferson is at home watching. So is Adam Thielen, and so is Dalvin Cook. Those guys are pretty good. You still win in this league with a offensive line, and that's why the Bengals, I felt, made the mistake of not looking at the offensive line. But their quarterback is so good that he covered it up.
Yep, and it was like Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs for a lot of years. The Chiefs were aging on the offensive line, and it's not like they fell off the face of the earth because they're not as bad as the Bengals. But when you have a franchise quarterback like Joe Burrow, and they're absolutely right about this, it makes all the difference in the world, Mike.
Real quick, got this text on our conversation about Hopkins. says, I got to disagree with you guys about Hopkins. He's never been fast or athletic to say he just catches everything, and he will continue to do so for a long
He's
time.
getting injured a lot. That's really
my problem is exactly what you said, is will the injury start to catch up to him now? That's what happened to Julio Jones. He just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, Hopkins is a great player, but he's been injured a lot the last 2 years. And you know what? I fully expect DeAndre Hopkins to come back and just tear it up next year, because he was doing that before the injury this year. But who knows? It's Mike Evans is starting to get like that too. He's getting injured a lot, but give him credit. He keeps finding ways to bounce back.
He's Jeff Kerr. Follow him at Jeff Kerr CBS. He does great work for CBS Sports. He'll be back on Wednesday. Eagles, Cowboys, Saturday night right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Jeff, take care, pal.
It's going to be a fun night on Saturday, Mike. I'm excited. Hey, you know what? We can say, Mike, we were right. The Eagles were better than what we thought they were going to be.
There you go. Yes, we were. We were right, Jeff Kerr. All right, pal. Well, yeah, I know a lot of people. I actually had a couple people on Twitter reach out to me. I couldn't believe it, and said, hey, man, you've been saying that the Eagles are a playoff team for a couple of weeks now, and we kept giving you crap. I appreciate those people who reached out. I'm going to close out the show. Coming up next, game night's on the way with Josh, and then the Sixers, and then Monday Night Football. It's all right here on 97.3 ESPN.
Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Have you ever wondered why eyeglasses cost so much? The eyewear industry has been dominated by a single company that's kept prices artificially high.
Yikes.
Warby Parker was created to change that. They design and produce their own eyewear and then sell it directly to you for a fraction of the price. Warby Parker's high-quality glasses start at just $95, including your prescription. Try 5 pairs of frames for free. Go to warbyparker.com to pick the 5 frames to try on at home for free. That's warbyparker.com.
Susan, it's so great to finally be able to get together again.
Oh, it sure is. And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon. Cash back every time I buy gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious.
Or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code BUY for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill-up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code BUY for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code BUY.
Creamy nut butter makes it delightfully sweet. Roasted nuts make it perfectly salty. Get 2 great tastes in one delicious bar. Enjoy a Nature Valley sweet and salty nut bar today.
O'Reilly. Get ready for winter weather. At O'Reilly Auto Parts, our professional parts people will even install them for free. Plus, earn double O rewards points. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Years ago, I switched to Progressive. Well, I used all those savings to buy that golf club that swings for you. But now everyone who plays golf is really good because, the club swings for you in the future, which is now.
So switch to Progressive and save big because those savings could add up in the future. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive in 2020. Potential savings will vary.
Before Bamboo HR, I feel like crying just thinking about it.
We were still handling everything via paper, and we literally had paper stack. It was all in spreadsheets and like folders. From the moment I started using it, I felt calmer.
As soon as we started using the Bamboo onboarding checklist, I mean, it was
people to focus on development, to focus on team dynamics.
it's freeing me up to do more of the stuff that actually matters in HR, which is interacting with people, learning from them, and then building stuff for them.
Everything is in this one place. I can't even imagine what it would be like without Bamboo HR.
We're Bamboo HR, and we'd love to set you free to do great work. Come try our award-winning all-in-one HR software for free with no strings attached. Visit bamboohr.com/hats for this free trial offer. That's bamboohr.com/hats.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
5:52 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill with you till the top of the hour tonight. About to head on out of here. Josh has game night coming up next. Then the Sixers and the Rockets. That game you can hear on 97.3 ESPN, followed by Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We'll pick that game up in progress tomorrow. The Flyers are back against the Ducks. Sixers Magic Wednesday, Flyers Pittsburgh Thursday, Sixers Spurs on Friday, Eagles Dallas Saturday, and then on Sunday we'll have an NFL triple header for you. So as we get the final kind of NFL regular season here, looking forward to seeing what the playoff pairings are going to be. This has we do who's in, who's out. We legitimately have not been able to get a pairing yet. Do we have any pairings actually set yet? I don't think so.
No pairings are set yet. We are still waiting on the league to actually. The league hasn't officially released all the scenarios either because they're waiting for tonight's game.
Huh. All right. Well,
read into that what you will.
Pittsburgh got very few chances to get in.
Well, they have to win, and if they lose, it's pretty much dunsy.
Yeah, I mean, they have to win. Even if they win, they still have very slim. I think they're only like 6% chance tonight.
Yeah, I thought it was like 6 or 5%, depending on which network you're checking on their percentages.
Well, it's under 10 everywhere. So
yeah,
even if they win tonight, they still need a lot of help moving forward here. So that game's tonight. 97.3 ESPN's coverage of that game will happen after the Sixers game. Also, the NFC playoffs will come down to San Francisco plays the Rams, New Orleans plays Atlanta, Philadelphia plays Dallas.
Yep.
And then whatever happens in those three games are the last three NFC games. Now there's some seeding on the higher side too that is in play here.
Right, correct. Obviously, the Rams and Cardinals are still playing for their division. There's always still a possibility the Dallas Cowboys can move up to 2 according to certain scenarios. So it's going to be interesting to see, who leverages what. Because if Mike McCarthy says he's playing, who else is playing this weekend?
That's a good point. You talk about with Tampa Bay and the Rams.
That's a perfect example. Does Tampa really have to play anybody this weekend?
If they want to move up.
If they want to move up, but they can't get the 1 seed. So what does it matter?
That's a good point. Do these teams care? I guess it's for the second round. Like if you're Dallas, you don't want to be 4 because then you're only getting 1 home game.
Correct.
That's a big situation, I think.
I mean, there's a theory out there that Dallas wants to win this game because they know they got to go to Green Bay if they advance to the playoffs. They want to prepare for cold weather.
Yeah. They're 6-3 on the road. No, 6-2 on the road, 5-3 at home. So maybe Dallas doesn't really care.
Who knows? It's such a weird situation. And McCarthy, like you said, is an idiot.
All right, that's it for me. I'll do my best to try to get here tomorrow. I can't promise anything.
I'll be there. I'll be back tomorrow.
I am. My last fever was 107. Is that healthy?
Well, here's the question. Did your fever go up because you already saw that you had a high temperature because you were stressing about it?
I don't know. It's a good question. Let me see what it is right now. 103. It went down.
It went down 4 tenths. See?
Yep. There we go.
Take
All right.
care
I'll be
of yourself,
back
Mike.
sometime this week, if not tomorrow. Josh has you till 7 o'clock. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we will hopefully everybody's safe and feeling better out there.